going where it needs to go. Uh-oh, don't see it. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we are. Nice. All right. So we were, yes, and I'm going to go ahead and go into Facebook, and I'm going to tag you on this show while we're waiting for people to come in.
Okay, perfect. And then
Okay.
I will see if
Boom.
anybody that I'm feeling called to tag.
Okay. So that should be on your page now. I don't know if you have to approve it, but I tagged you on it.
Okay,
Let's see. Looks like we got four people in the house after 44 seconds.
great.
All
No.
right, we're just getting back into the groove. It's March 1st. Soul Speaks 5D's been on a hiatus. I think we've done probably, I don't know, maybe 20 shows in 3 months. But we're getting back into it, and Soldier's coming out for 2024, and very happy to sit down with Judy Kuo. And she and I just met, and I'm really looking forward to getting into this year and meeting people that I've never done shows with, although we'll do shows with people that we have done shows with. But let me just give you a little quick uh, update on, or a little info on Judy. Okay, so she is living in San Jose, California. I've got family there.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I got family that's been there for like since the 70s.
Okay.
Um, so she is, let's see here. In 2016, she lost her health. And although she was never diagnosed with health conditions or autoimmune conditions, she certainly felt it throughout her whole being. And then she's been reclaiming her health and power back to self love by going all holistic. Oh, we should talk about this. And using natural remedies, working with energy healing, and also coaching others to better understand. Uh, she describes herself as very earthy, shamanic, as well as coexisting, vibrating, and multidimensional levels simultaneously. She's respectful of old, ancient traditions and wisdom while honoring and embracing all the evolutionary aspects of all the fast-paced ascension we are navigating by bringing in and utilizing higher dimensional technologies and wisdom at the same time. Yeah, so a couple of things jump out here for me. One is the holistic and natural remedies, because I think that's really coming on, and energy healing, obviously. The other thing I see here is the term ascension. Uh, I think it's starting to become more of a household word, if you will.
Right.
I've been noticing that on my own. But yeah, over the years, I always ask the question, when did you wake up, or have you always been this weird? It sounded like that you might have reawoken on or about 2016 with the situation that you had with your health. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes, correct. I definitely have been exposed to some of my gifts early on in age. Didn't quite fit in, but the actual like real like Big Bang awakening happened in 2016,
Right.
and that led me to really awaken. The universe really kicked me in the butt here, so to speak. And I'm trying to feel how much should I go into it, but let me just go ahead and as far as what you mentioned about like ascension, yeah, there's almost like when we go through it, there's like really no manual, right? So we're like going through it, and then all of a sudden all these things are happening, right? And at least in my case that was the case. It was really like jumping in without a parachute. That's what it felt like for me, and going through that journey of like losing my health. And I was very much in the 3D world, in the corporate world, for like my whole life pretty much. And
Wow.
then yeah, go ahead.
No, no. So yeah, let's go back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. But now your situation with the health was the kick in the butt. And a lot of people have come on this show over the years and talked about that. Car accidents,
Yeah.
just autoimmune, just different things coming in a very severe nature, and really getting them started at that point, going into self healing. We've had so many different stories of people miraculously, altering their life overnight, sometimes in days,
Mhm.
But yeah, what was that like though? So I was in the corporate world. I think a lot of people can relate to that as well, and how we can kind of get dumbed down or distracted, you might say. Uh,
Or
how
in
did
this,
that come? But how did that come in for you? Did you wake up one day and you were just in very ill health, or was it a slow progression, or was it something
so
that came in like a thief in the night?
but it became a lot more noticeable in 2016, like in January, the beginning of 2016, where I thought I had carpal tunnel. I was working in a very much like administrative office setting. My background is in business administration with high tech management, and I was doing a lot of like client services and juggling like kind of like doing three people's job, getting paid for one, meeting unrealistic deadlines after one thing after another. And I just remember starting in 2016, at the beginning, I started noticing what it looked like carpal tunnel in my wrists, and my nerves started like kind of like really hurting. And I was like, okay, it's probably just carpal tunnel. That's why people were calling me. I was like, oh, just go take care. We'll change some, make things a little bit more ergonomic for you, workstation wise, and you should be good to go. And yeah, but just keep on working. The important part was, the 3D is revolving around the numbers, meeting deadlines, making profits, and all of that. And that's kind of how it went for me. Started with that, and then it quickly progressed. That whole year, I actually did. I was pretty resistant about looking further. I just like, oh no, I need to perform. I need to do well my job. This is what provides me quote unquote security, stability, having the financial stability, right? That's what we think at the time when we're still in the system. And that's what I did. I just kept working my hardest, even with the all the pain that was coming through. It just kind of quickly escalated into my arms, my forearms, and then next thing I know, I was wearing those arm bracelets, wrist bracelets, hand bracelets, and then it was almost like covering pretty much my whole arm, pretty much, my whole thing. And then my shoulders started really hurting because I was people they put me in like workers comp to go see physical therapists. I went to do that. I was taking medications like non-natural, just the medication to really the ones that prevent you from thinking anything is wrong. You just kind of mask the pain, and then all right, move along with your work, right? So that's kind of like how my journey went. And by the end of that year in 2016, um, I I got to a point where I didn't know how I was gonna go another day. I was in so much pain. I could barely brush my teeth without excruciating nerve, like flare up pains. I thought I had arthritis. I didn't really know. I mean, my gut was affected, my emotions, I could barely sleep or even function pretty much. And I really was scared of every day driving to work because I never knew I was just gonna get into accident if this thing flares up in the middle of it, and the pain is too much and I cannot take it, then it's going to create other issues. So that's kind of how it went for me. I tried to see if there was any diagnosis as far as like I started research. I was like, oh, maybe it's autoimmune conditions or disease or something like that, and I didn't know anything about that. I asked doctors, "Oh, hey, can we run tests for that to see if yeah, I have some kind of autoimmune conditions?" And everything would come back, quote unquote normal. They wouldn't look further. They said, "Oh, your blood test came out normal. You look fine. Look, because my skin did not get affected because it was not a skin issue." So I had to tell them, and but I knew something was really wrong with me, emotionally, physically, like spiritually, everything. And so I just finally I decided one day. I was just like, I never was religious, but I knew there was something bigger. I don't know what it was, At that point, it was my last resort, and I just cried my heart out one night, and I said, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through tomorrow, or even like tonight. I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this. Give me a if I'm meant to be here, because otherwise I'm just going to. I don't want to live anymore. Pretty much, that's basically
Right.
where I was.
Right.
I said, if I'm meant to be here for a purpose, or if I'm meant to be here, please give me a sign, or I really need some support. I don't know what to do right now at this point. Nobody in my family, I couldn't tell anybody because everybody would just, based on my look, my skin looked fine. I look Asian. I had the same, baby face. I'm 42, and it's like all these other things in society's way of the conditionings, thinking just because you look fine on the outside, then they don't look further, to see what's going on the inside, right? So those are some of the battles and challenges I was facing that led to my awakening, which is basically I got a miracle happen after this prayer that I called out, and I said, any sign, please, please, And of course, I wasn't laughing. I was in tears, everything, You can just imagine, the whole thing. And I woke up the next day. I went into my acupuncture appointment, and then all of a sudden, I was just laying there, and then I felt this. I didn't see the color, but it felt like a golden white light
Wow.
that surrounded me, that showered me like a mist of just beautiful energy. Shower me from top to bottom, like very gently, the most loving energy ever. And when you finish, it's like a little scan, and went through my whole body. And at first I was like, wait, like this can be, I'm laying down, and it went from here to here. It's like, it's not gravity. This is not, like, I was trying to logically explain what
Now
was
this is now you're seeing this light, right?
well, I felt it. I didn't
You
see it.
felt it. Okay, you felt it. Okay, I got you. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. But I felt it, but I went directly into my mind thinking, wait a second, is this gravity? Is somebody pouring something on the top or something? And I was like, no, I'm in the
Do you think there was any connection with the acupuncturist?
first I thought it was, but later I got a huge big knowing, which is later down the road I found out was one of my gifts, the knowingness that I have. And that was when I started realizing, oh, this is something that has direct connection with my soul at this higher level. And then when I got clarity, I realized it was Archangel Raphael. And then at some point, maybe even Archangel Michael. They came in, and that was my sign.
Now, okay. And so, yeah, the reason I love talking about this stuff is because there's so many people, because it's not linear. There's so many people going through things at different times on the linear timeline. And so, they might be going through tomorrow what you talking about right now. So just for clarity, there's no right or wrong, just, to give people some range as to what it might be like. Because everyone's always going, hey, it happens to her, it doesn't happen to me, and this, this and that, I can't do this. How did you know? Because for me, I think Archangel Michael, or the Archangel consciousnesses, came in over a period of time. It took me a while to figure out things until I go, oh, this is definitely Archangel Michael. How did you know it was Raphael, Michael et al.?
I asked afterwards when I went through my monkey mind. At the time, I was still very much in the system. So I went through my mind. I was like, what was that? Like, this is not something I can explain. I would love an answer. I want to get clarity. So I just set the intention to get clarity of what just happened, basically. And then I kind of let go of of looking for answers or anything like that, because first of all, because I had like just everything was going on with me, a bunch of stuff was going on with me, so that would keep me occupied like pretty much the whole day. I didn't have time for anything else. And then one day, let me lead to that. But basically, after this happened, the next day, after this happened, I think it was like within a day or two, I woke up one morning, 95% of my pain gone, of everything just gone, and I was like, oh my goodness, right? Anyways, so that really encouraged and motivated me to really want an answer of what just happened.
Right.
And because I was like, I've always been interested in exploring and learning more and everything, and I knew that it wasn't just this physical form, but I had to suppress a lot of these other aspects of me since I was little, because I was always in an environment or around people who um, it was either too extreme,
Yeah.
oh, they go
Your
super,
your imaginary friends aren't real. Be quiet. Go back to your room.
right, or like you're hearing, or if you know stuff, or you're hearing stuff, or like the wisdom that I will
Right.
bring in, and nobody, it didn't make sense to anybody else, because if you're like ahead of time, or you know things,
Right.
and that, but doesn't mean that what you know is wrong. It just means that you're around, a consciousness reality that is not quite there yet. That's why we're here, to change that,
Right.
right? But yeah, anyway, so after that, I was all of a sudden I was guided. It was just a very easy flow, where I was doing something in my day, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, having this feeling of go on Google and type miraculously felt better from pain, or something like that, like like just random keywords revolving around things that you couldn't explain, like all of a sudden I felt better from all this pain. And so all of a sudden I was led to an article of somebody talking about spirituality, and how somebody also felt this golden white light, and then after that, all of a sudden all their pain was gone, or something. It's very similar. And then on that article they mentioned Archangel Raphael.
Okay.
And then that was the first time in a very long time, because when I was little I had gifts, and then I forgotten all about it, right? And then all of a sudden this beautiful force and power came through my heart, deep inside, and but yet it didn't feel like it was part of my body, and I didn't know what it was. It was part of my soul and my consciousness, and then all of a sudden this recognition, this resonancy of, yeah, that's it. Like there's no doubt in my mind, in my heart, in my whole being, that that's not it. So it's like, it's not even like because people talking about, oh, what is true, what is the reality, and this, like, those are just words. But like for me it was beyond. I can't even like quite put into words exactly the feeling, but the best way I can put it is like this knowingness, this bigger knowingness, that you have no doubt whatsoever that that's it.
Right. Well,
So
I mean, yeah,
that's
and I think yeah, because
yeah.
like there's a couple of comments here, which are
Oh,
legit. I think in terms of like, who is that energy? What is that energy? And I know for many people, including myself, those energies that presented themselves, or let's call them aspects, those aspects that presented themselves definitely felt like they were on the outside when I first ran into them. And over time, people talk about embodiment. They have embodiment experiences. I've had some that were very, dimensional in the physical, where you're having shape shifting and that type of thing.
mhm.
Uh, and I think now there's quite a bit of, not that there's nothing right or wrong. I'm just saying, for the purpose of people that are going through this now, that might see this or might reach out to you, it may, it does change. I mean, these consciousnesses that are these aspects that you are speaking of, and I have a feeling that have continued to connect to you and even expand in the faces of the universe that you're connecting with, is, I guess, one is one. So at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. But as a human being going through the experience, I think this type of retelling is important, because this is the part we didn't have coming in the door with us, and trying to figure it out and decipher what is what, in a world full of, um, narcissistic patriarchal programming that, you know, perpetuates self-doubt and self, uh,
Mhm.
sabotage and all the different programming that we're overcoming and transforming. I think it's important. How did you? So you were in the corporate world. This happens over a period of time. You understand. You get to that point when that's really the main thing I was trying to say is the only thing that matters is what you know, and it doesn't matter if the whole world is telling you you're crazy. You know, and I think that's such uh, a seminal moment for people to turn that corner. Now, normally when those things happen, your life starts to change, and it gets
Yeah.
kind of crazy, and you start doing things that are crazy and that don't make any sense. And I'm going to assume at risk that you probably converted from the corporate world into essentially or eventually what you're doing now, or a combination of maybe. Um, what was that like for you? At what point did you start to say, you know what, I'm not going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to make some changes, and
Mhm.
how did you go about that?
Yeah, very good questions. Yes. So basically, when I was faced with dealing with the 3D, the Western medicine that um, was not able to provide the support and help that I needed. And I also realized that I had to start taking things on my own hand. And it was a lost battle to keep going and trying to tell them, yes, something is really wrong with me, because I did that. I tried that. It led me nowhere, right? And so I realized I was going into the cycle. It was just like a cycle of like non-ending, like it was just kept going in circle. And I was just like, gosh, are these people hearing me? And then first I was really mad, and then I went through all the emotions because my emotions are completely out of whack. But despite all of that, because I asked for a sign, and I said I cannot keep going without support. Whoever is hearing me, there's just a higher power, and I'm meant to be here, and I'm not meant to be dead and be gone. Then please, I would love to know. I would love to get help. I humbly ask. Okay, I'm not. Hopefully, that's not asking too much. Okay, please, so like right now, I can make light of this because I integrated and I healed so much of those, all everything that took place. But I feel like that was the determining point where I decided they can't hear me. I'm alone, and what if this is not a bad thing? Maybe this is part of this what I'm going through. It really sucks. I'm in a lot of pain. I have no one to talk to. But I did ask if I meant to be here. Remember, my question is like my. I would love a sign. I would like to have a sign, and I would like to have support. I did ask for that if I'm meant to be here. So then I had to go back, despite all the pain and all the doubt and everything. I went back and said, "All right, I need a new approach. They cannot hear me. This is going nowhere. This is going circle, 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 and this is an endless route." Then I was like, "All right." Unfortunately, I'm not encouraging anybody to lie, but I had to. I set my foot down and was like, this is not a fight. I'm gonna keep doing this because I'm going to be like, I barely have energy.
Right,
I'm not gonna waste any more energy on trying to do this, which now I know it's really fighting the system, right?
right,
And it's like, so you gotta work smart around this whole thing. If something is really not working for you, then perhaps it's time to shift and change strategies so that new doors can open up. And so that's what I did. As soon as I set my foot down and I asked that question, and then I woke up that miraculously morning without pain, everything started falling in place so quickly. It was like I was led to an event, a yoga class that was
right,
in
right,
where I was like, how the heck am I gonna drive and without crashing? This is before when I actually got guidance that I didn't know it was a guidance, but I trusted that because it felt so loving. But yet I had a lot of resistance. But I was like, you know what? Nothing else working. Guess what? Yeah, I'm gonna give that a try. So I went to yoga class. So I got all these other information and direction actually before this, before I woke up and then had no pain. So they wanted me to start trusting this higher knowing and this higher power, higher consciousness, and that there are angelic beings or spiritual guides, and there's like other beings and spirits helping you the whole time. It's just a matter of, are you gonna trust that feeling versus what you see with your eyes? So
Right.
that was a huge lesson for me, and that's when I went into that yoga class. And that yoga class gave me an open door for a retreat that was taking place in Costa Rica. And at the end of the retreat, there was an ayahuasca ceremony. And then that's when, a week after my, actually, a week after I asked for that higher, my prayer, I guess I'll just say my prayer. After my prayer, all of a sudden I'm finding myself taking getting a week off as vacation from my work. I all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm buying a ticket. I am buying this retreat in Costa Rica, booking for the ayahuasca. I had no time whatsoever to do research, but that all of a sudden this higher power was just like leading me, like, this is where you're going, this is where you're going, this is where you go, go, go. It's like the minute I start thinking, guess what?
Right.
I just
That's right.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make any sense, do it. That's my motto for the last few years.
Yep.
So this is 2016. You're going to 2017. It sounds like you turn the corner and you start digging into the things that you're alluding to in your little bio, holistic and natural and energetic healing approach. Um, then we have something occur in the first part of 2020, and that's not to make this a political football or point of debate or whatever. That's not really why I'm saying that. The reason I'm bringing up COVID and everything that came from it is because from an energetic standpoint, it changed the face of the world, and I think by all parties that are plugged in, you could say that it accelerated the wake up experience for many, many people because they started to see behind the BS, right? How did that affect you as you went into 2020 and that started coming out, given where you were coming from? And I don't mean in terms of did I get a jab, did I not get a jab? I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about in terms of your evolution. Was it in other words, was the occurrence of it or the introduction of it kind of I'm wondering if it was an expansion for you in that you gained more confidence in natural and holistic healing and energy healing.
Okay. So I was just I was just feeling into the energy of what you're saying, and this might be a little bit. I'm going to deliver in a way that might be a little bit different than maybe most people. But
not on this show.
there's no most or normal here.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So what happened in my timeline on the physical level was I went through the whole pandemic period about 2 or 3 years beforehand. I already knew something big was coming. I had no idea what it's called, what was going on. I had no details. I just knew something was gonna happen big time. And because the amount of waking up and ascension that needed to take place was a lot, I had a huge gap to fill and be ready for the wave that I needed to be ready for to serve at a full capacity. So everything happened so fast, much faster. So all the clarity, everything that I saw, like things that needed to take place, my healing and everything happened literally as I came back from the ayahuasca ceremony. So that ayahuasca ceremony is when I had my near-death experience. So basically, right
now,
after.
did you have it when you took the ayahuasca, or was it after? What happened?
When I took my ayahuasca, so I'm trying to figure out, because I also want to answer your question, but at the same time,
Yeah, yeah,
I do want to, kind of incorporate that.
yeah, yeah. Of
Let me
course.
give you a general, as far as the timeline with what happened with the pandemic. It happened like in 2017 and
Right.
18 for me.
Okay.
And so I know it's like multiple, it's like that's how, if we put in the chart, that would be the comparison. So for me, when the actual collective was going through, the actual 3D was going through the pandemic, it really didn't affect me that much because I was already completely out of the system. I knew that I can manifest my reality. And I say, this is not going to affect me. I'm going to be able to go walk around. And I know that if anything affects my immune system, I trust, because by then I already knew to trust my higher power. I
Mm,
knew energetically when something was safe or a threat to me, regardless if there was
right.
anybody who was sick. That was not a determination whether I would get sick. I could be around somebody who is not sick,
Right.
their energy is attaching or they're seeking approval from me, that can get me sick. And then if I'm not strong enough. So
Right.
because so I was just gonna answer that part first and then go back to a little bit back on 2017 where I made it to Costa Rica, and it was during the ayahuasca that I had my second near death experience in life. um, and that was the one that awakened everything and got me out of the system, very intense and very quickly.
Was it an out of body during the ceremony, or did it happen afterwards?
Yeah, there was an out of body. I saw myself, I literally was leaving my body, my spirit was
Okay.
leaving my
Yeah, yeah,
body.
yeah.
It was so I'll tell you a little bit about that. Like I'm feeling called to share. I was like, yeah, because and this is a unique experience for everyone. My ayahuasca experience doesn't have to necessarily reflect somebody else. Because for me, I was coming from a place of excruciating physical, emotional, spiritual, like all kinds of pain. Because probably my human side was so stubborn and didn't, but everything happens for a reason at the right time. So for me, it was very intense process. So me going into ayahuasca without any research, without any knowledge of what that was, only solely relying on this calling and not being able to prepare my body properly is what led the near death experience and the pain and the acceleration of this process, which seems like it was taking forever because I was so in so much pain, right? But when I did notice that every cell of my body was dying because I started not being able to feel it anymore or move my body actually, and not to scare any of your viewers that it was direct reflection of ayahuasca, but it was more about the intention I set going into the ayahuasca. I said, all right, I am done wasting my time here. If I'm not meant to be where I am, I need to just go. Like, I just lead me right into where I need to go at a soul level. Here we go. And I know it was a big, humongous intention without taking proper precautions or support, but that was my path.
Right.
So not to say anybody needs to do that, you know. So when my body finally died, I saw myself going up in spirit, and I was like all fearful because I was like, oh my gosh, am I dying? What's going on? And I was like, oh, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so happy. I was so happy. And being in spirit up there, I felt no pain. I was floating like a freaking kid, just flowing. I was just like, to my surprise, I was just like, what in the world? I thought I was going to be the completely opposite. I'll be fighting. I was like, oh no, I'm dying. I had this whole thing built up that I was, that I need to avoid death at all costs. It's going to be so painful, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then that was the moment I realized, oh, it's the human experience, being the body, having all those traumas, not taking care of myself that led me to all that pain and suffering. Because I separate pain and suffering. Just because you have pain doesn't mean you need to have suffering, you know.
Ah, yeah.
I didn't know back then. I
Let's sit
social.
with that for a minute. Let's sit
Yeah.
with that for a minute. That's actually okay. So if I have pain, I don't have to suffer.
Mm-mm.
That is, and you know, we're talking about in terms of physical body kind of situation, but this is actually
Yep.
true to everything. Emotional pain would be big. I
Mhm.
think mental pressure or torture would be big, but it's a choice to suffer. Somebody said the other day, God, I don't even know how this happened. How did this happen? Oh, it was in a group I was in,
Uh-huh.
uh, participating in, and somebody was talking about how they went through, I guess it was like a meditation or during the meditation, and they got to a point, or maybe they were just talking about what had been going on with them. I can't remember, but they were talking about how all this stuff's coming, right? I guess as I'm listening to you, all these things are presented. Each one of these things has historically created uncomfortableness. This is my explanation, not the person's, but it creates uncomfortableness, pain, right?
Right.
Discomfort. Discomfort equals pain. Pain is discomfort.
Mhm.
But what she was saying was that she went through all this stuff. It's like, okay, and finally, okay, I give up, right? Just
Yeah.
bring it on,
Right.
and that person said in that moment, said, and I wish I could remember verbatim, said something about, it's then I realized the futility of distrust. So in other words, in my head in that moment, I went, oh wow, distrust is a choice. Trust is a choice. So by the same token, as I listen to you and this incredible story, and you just said something I've never heard before, uh, that's two different things. Suffering is a choice.
Mhm.
Pain may or may not be,
May
but
or may
based
not.
on what, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it like, you know, we're used to pain comes, now we're going to suffer. Well,
Right.
if we can figure out that, you know what, suffering's a choice,
Yeah.
now we can look at the pains that we can make a choice that we can avoid, basically. But yeah, I'm glad you've made that distinction. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, I was just like, huh. When I realized that, I was like, oh wow, okay. Oh gosh, all the suffering that I've been suffering is like I don't have to. I can have the pain. But of course, on a human level, like because we're not separate. That's the thing. That's the important part was I went through the phase of like super spiritual, it ascended very quickly, and then I was very ungrounded in my body. And I started denying and not taking care of my body, thinking, oh, I'm going through ascension and I'm going to just going to,
Now, what year was this? Because I want to jump into this.
oh yeah,
Because so many people can relate to that. Oh yeah, I'm ascending. I got it. I'm awake now. I'm ascending. I'm doing all the right things.
yeah, you think you got it.
But
No.
I have a I have a feeling what you're saying is okay,
Yeah.
that you were spending a lot of time outside your body and not enough inside your body. And I think this is something that's really coming to the forefront in 2024. We can't be out there in the ethers all the time, because it's kind of given us what we need or enough of what we need. Because the primary message is we chose by free will to come here and be a human being.
Yep.
And that's the point. So if
Yes.
we're going to spend our time out there in the ethers all the time, there is a bypassing element to that and an avoidance of being a human being to look at all the things that offer the human being, uh, the vast potential of the experience that we have. But we
Yep.
can't tap into that vast potential unless we're willing to look at those things, and that requires to be in the human body,
Yes.
in all regards. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I got as you were talking about that was the green, the grass. The grass is not always greener, only on the other side. Guess what? You can make the grass greener on this side, on the human level
Just
too.
water
That's
it.
what it is. Yeah, exactly. And that,
Well,
you know,
the grass is never greener on the other side.
It's
You know
where
what I
you
mean?
need it. You
And
want it.
in you know what I mean? In the way, yeah,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
because that's the point. You know, being and I'm not knocking it. Believe me, I've been connecting, communing for many years, and I'm no expert or anything like that. But I do know one thing is that, you know, being spending our time out there in a disproportionate way is
Yeah.
not presence. It's not presence. You might be present with an aspect that you're comfortable with that's been talking to you for a long time.
Mhm.
You might be comfortable with, oh my God, I'm tapped into to my soul that was Cleopatra, or
Mhm.
whatever the case is. But the fact is, we're here in this body, and it's not supposed to be suffering at this point of awakening. We can regulate, we can dictate, we can command from our field of presence and power. But yeah, I feel like that. That's a really good point, and it's timely.
Yeah. And
How do you um, kind of gauge or monitor or calibrate the time you spend in communion, in meditation, in the ethers with being in the body?
okay. So I actually got exactly what you're about to ask too. So, and not to discourage anybody or invalidate people's feeling or what they're going through, because it's very real, right? When we're
Hmm.
going through it. So that I just want to say that first, because it was very important for me to recognize that I was going through that I was having pain and I was suffering, and I was in a discomfort and I was seeking only what was more comfortable. By nature, many of us are comfortable from with things that are up higher dimensions, because that's where our soul essence, our spirit can come from, from different places. Many of us are star seeds, whatever label that we when names we have it, light workers, star seeds, healers, empaths, sensitives, like all of those and more. So so it's not to invalidate what we're all going through or what we went through. In my case, I needed to go through that recognition, and also learn that I was out of my body, because I was running away, right? But
Hmm.
at the same time, there is a reason, understanding that the reason why I was running away, because it was so painful to look
Right,
at it, right? It
right,
was so
right.
painful, and like, to touch bases what we were talking about, right? And in our society, or many of us, we look at pain, it's a discomfort. And what does that mean? It's not comfortable, it's painful, and then there's a very direct link to suffering. Why would you want to be suffering? And there's some certain level that, because our soul knows that we're not here to suffer, but the human experience goes against anything that our soul has are built to do. We're here to thrive, we're here to love, be a light, right? And yet, when we come in this body, this human consciousness experience, it's completely opposite. And yet, because we've forgotten who we are through the process of coming to this body, and we don't have that manual, then it's like a free it's a shock, right, to be going through that. So I do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's very much part of the process, even for myself, realizing and be curious about understanding. Yes, I know this is super painful, but realizing that me going up there only was just like, no, I but there's and then going through my emotions of anger, of disappointment, or things that I went through. I was a very much of a people pleaser, right? And then blaming others, all these stuff are like part of the human experience, because if you're not trusting yourself, which many of us, because of the human experience and what we have to go through, we were built and we were programmed not to trust ourselves. And just
Right.
like everything out there in the 3D.
Something's wrong. Something's wrong, and we're going to take care of it for you.
Yeah,
That's the
we'll
big.
tell you what to do, and you do it.
Let me ask you this, because this is a great point. And
Yeah,
again, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to get the human experience here, because
yeah,
that's where the code is, in my opinion. Um, you said that, yeah, the pain, the suffering thing, the connections to our multidimensional aspects, which obviously the present day value seems to be the embodiment of those things, and then functioning as one voice, as one soul
Mhm.
incarnated consciously. But you made the you made the comment
Mhm.
about those things are hard to look at. Now,
Right.
when you were talking about those things are hard to look at as a human being in our evolution, especially post wake up, we think, oh, well, I'm woke up now, I'll put my feet on the desk and put my arms back and everything's cool. But no, we start to get elevated and we have, to me, this whole ascension thing, if
Mhm.
you want to use that word, is all the veils have to do with our own self perception of ourselves, because as within without, and everything will flow from there. If I love myself more, then I'm going to have more. But in terms of like looking at ourselves, I've always felt like we get raised to a higher level. Oh, I can see that and I can see that, but can we see ourselves
Mhm.
at this higher vantage point? Can we move past embarrassment and pride? And can we look at ourselves and at a minimum, admit to ourselves those things that we just found out without being embarrassed? I had for instance, just as an example, just as an analogy,
Mhm.
let's say, which is true, I had a bout for a couple of years with a chemical, with drugs. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, and I wasn't a daily user or anything like that, but it affected my wholeness.
Mhm.
And so to get, and then over time, um, certain things leaked out. You know what I mean? And people in your family find out, and then this and that, and at some point, I hit a place where I said, you know what? Yeah, I did all this. I did all this, and I can see why I did all this, because the reality is if I could have been out in the ethers, ignoring my physical bodies, and it's the same thing as me medicating or distracting myself and
Mhm.
distorting my life by utilizing drugs on a consistent basis and entering the like the astral area of energy, where there's a lot of not 5D, but it's like in between.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I mean, like what kind of things do you think, whether it's your own thing, that we have to look at that we don't want to look at, and do you feel like that we're getting better at that? Do you think that's part of what's happening with this expansion? Is we're starting to be more honest with ourselves? Is it happening to you? I don't know. That's like six questions in one. But what kind of things? What kind of things did you not want to look at, or would you say, if you don't want to make it personal, that we don't want to look at?
It's okay. My everything is personal because right now my personal things are part of everything. Because once you type into your heart, you're open, you know, to share. Unless you have a immediate threat, then yeah, no, I'm not gonna share. But it's not the case here, so so don't worry. Yeah, and let's see here. those, yeah, those are some.
That's a great answer. I just want to say that you just did another one. That's the second bomb today.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
because really you just said it right there. You just said it. We
Yeah.
think we really. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm kind of a translator. So it's like, okay, what is it that we don't want to look at?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know what it is we don't want to look at, but I know one thing: you have to open your heart to do it. You have
Mhm.
to open your heart to have a level of compassion and non-judgment for yourself to be able to get there, right?
Yep.
Like, wow,
Yep.
that's thank you for that. I'm
Yeah.
having a session today.
Yeah, and then and the thing is, it is one of the hardest thing as we're going through this human experience is to open the heart, especially when we've been going through so many programmings. As soon as we're like we're born, or even before we're born, we're already getting traumas. Maybe that was my case. I was already having traumas and picking up my mom's anxiety because of what was going on through her, and the karmic ties and the karmic traumas from my ancestors or for the people around her, and different things like that, because she was a sensitive. And so I was already picking that up as soon as I was a baby, and that's a whole nother story how I got access to that.
Not to mention what you probably brought in ancestrally.
Yes, exactly. And for a
Are you the rainbow sheep in the family?
rainbow sheep.
Well, people say black sheep, but I'm just saying, are you the rainbow?
Is that? Oh, well, I always call it the black sheep because
Yeah,
I never really quite fitting, and I was always
yeah, yeah. But
so
you were the one like all of us. You were the one that was different. You were the one that, yeah.
yes, yes,
That's
and
it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So to answer your question, uh, the I guess the simple I made it really simple as far as the heart, but it's as far as the whole process definitely was not as simple to get to the heart because
Right.
there's so many things that have affected, right? The ability for us to really vibrate at a heart on our heart level like that, because ultimately the heart is where it's going to balance and is the portal for all wisdom, for all
Yeah.
access as far
Yeah.
as both on earth, up there, wherever you need to go. It's really the access.
Right.
Now, because we have so many blockages and so many traumas and things that are really hard to look at or even feel, at the human level and human experience, that makes can make it can make quite things quite challenging, So to like summarize that part or to make it more simple is really you take one step at a time or two step at a time. The key is to bring your awareness into the present moment
Right.
because everything on the human experience has been programming us to what is anxiety. You're worrying and you're feeling this anxiousness and stress about things that has not happened. And guess what?
Exactly.
Right
Exactly.
back then,
Exactly.
back
Yeah.
then, yeah, until you realize,
You kill it before it grows.
yeah,
We killed it before it grows. And we were like, oh my God, well, what happens if we get over there, which is a place you want to be
right.
or achieve or whatever, but then you're going to have these other things go on. I was writing this piece last night. I write a lot, and it was like some da 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 da. Then we started to step through our fears,
Mm-hmm.
and then da 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 da. It's kind of going up, and then it said,
Yep.
then we started doubting our new fears. And this goes back to what I was saying. We think,
Yeah.
or it's almost like there's a programming or conditioning uh, aspect in the what we call the light worker starseed circles.
Mm-hmm.
The fluffy love and light stuff. I think the real advantage to expanding is the wider view that we have, along with other things that parallel a greater sense of patience or wisdom or self-compassion or so on. But to be able to look at these things uh, that that bring us the anxiety,
Yeah.
we're in a real, I don't know about you with 2024, we can talk about it,
Yeah.
but 2024 has absolutely 100% day one. This is a whole different world now. Everything's working differently. The way the energy goes out, the way it comes back,
Yeah.
and with all the the fits and spurts, you
Mm-hmm.
can see and you can feel, the more grounded, the more founded that your feet are, on the earth. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, I just go back to this. I'm still going back to what you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
before with this heart thing, and so much of our experience and our data has come from interactions and the illusion that we're separate from the person that we're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is in 2024, it seems to be fast track. You take it into yourself, period. There is no other way. And really, the BS, the excuses, the lies, the externalizations got to go because it's just going to get tougher and tougher on you and those around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for not taking the responsibility 100%, which can be easily detected by the choice of our words and our thoughts. Are we blaming? Are we shaming? Are we externalizing? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
that's definitely
Yeah.
and the lower, higher vibration. No, I'm just saying we're in a time and a space where we've been afforded the opportunity to be in our bodies and anchor in this multidimensionality, these higher frequencies, or at least align with it if it's happening beyond us, if it's happening regardless of any of us or what we do, or to remain in the human experience at that level. And there's nothing wrong with that should somebody choose to do that from a soul perspective. But it seems like we're engaged in these conversations, lifestyles, and interactions where this multidimensionality coming in anchored and fully embodied occurs through the constant communion and practice of it, walking the talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
really,
yes, big time. Yeah,
yeah,
it's that's a whole that's a whole topic in itself, right? Walking the talk, and that's where we are being led to is becoming the new leaders of this new earth.
yeah,
And
right,
when I say a leader doesn't go and just leave people just because they don't have the same level of wisdom that you do, or the same, or can do the same things that you do. A new earth leader knows that we all have beautiful unique gifts and strengths and maybe weaknesses, but some of the weaknesses is like actually brings in the biggest lessons, right? And can be converted into something beautiful and great.
well,
And
you can't find the strength if you don't have a weakness. How would you know you have
exactly.
a strength?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
well, the walk,
yeah,
yeah. So connecting back to the what we were saying about the walk, the talk. Yes, that's very important, and that's also something that's not a necessarily one day to another that you can
mm,
shift. Because it took me a while too. But I'm not saying that it's gonna have to take forever. But it's kind of like what you were saying before, like we can't just be up there and
right.
not in this body and dealing with the discomfort and the pain. But it's also important to have that fine balance between not breaking somebody where, so that they still have that inspiration and have the strength to keep going, so that they can work on shifting those things that are painful into something that's, oh, okay, I got more understanding, I got clarity, now I can shift, and then no longer has to be something that I suffer, right? But something that I am looking forward to shift, because I know that on the when I shift this, things are gonna be way different than
Yeah.
before, like that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
another that's a yes. I mean, that's a really good point because there is this. Well, first of all, let me say it does go on forever, at least from my perspective.
It does go on
This,
forever, you said?
I say, well, hear me out. So
Okay.
my feeling is after all this time,
Mhm,
4,000 shows, talking to different people, it does go on forever.
mhm,
We're not here to be perfect.
mhm,
We're in a perfect imperfection that we all designed. We came in here at a soul level. We've gotten to a certain level of awareness, understanding that we can reach a higher level of truth, love, and perfection every day.
mhm.
And I think you bring up a very good point that it's not like you flip a switch and
Right.
that's never going to happen again. See, I think this is another hard truth that's coming into our communities
Mhm,
is that we can align with clearing and shifting, but there's still it still takes that walk the talk thing, and that walk the talk thing comes from the brutal honesty of the soul, as I call it. These conversations that we have, little Todd and big Todd, right? Or Todd in the universe, right?
uh-huh,
uh, I really, I think a lot of us are tired, and have been tired. 2023 was a hell of a year,
mhm,
and but this is really the first time that I can feel and see clear progress being made
mhm,
that's sticking. It's sticking. Yeah, we still have to a couple of bumps and bruises here and there, but the key is going back to what you said, this opening the heart. I mean, the opening the heart says, oh, well, I'm going to open my heart. Okay. No, opening the heart, like you said, it's everything that you say, think, and do is coming from the heart. Everything you discern is coming from the heart. And now the body's kind of connected to it as well. Now the body's coming online and saying, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. But
Exactly.
that's coming from the heart, and it's affecting your nervous system and all that stuff. But yeah, so I think that, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, well, like we have these loops, they come back. They come back. I've noticed it. The last 4 years are like clockwork. They're like clockwork. 21, 22, 23, and now 24. What's different is the collective awareness and the collective field, and it's broader. It has more high level frequencies and stuff like that. You might want to refer to it that way. But but still, there's no plateau. There's no stagnation. There's no, oh, I got this, because tomorrow, guess what? There's a whole broader field. There's a whole, you know what I mean? And I love what you said earlier about the weakness thing, because in order for the field to be expanded, and say there's more light brought in, what is on the other end of the spectrum at a minimum has to be looked at, acknowledged, and recognized. Because if you're not looking at it, if you're avoiding it, you're never going to get the payoff over here, no matter how many shifts or activations that you have.
It's called the integration part is very important. So we can do we can get relief for our pain over and over and over and over again. We can detox, cleanse, have Palo Santo, have sage it all, smudge it all. But guess what? If you're still not working towards the actual healing or finding that love, or working towards that, because there's a transition, of course, and many transitions and many layers. But if we're not looking at that, then we're skipping like what you said, bypassing. So we're not integrating. If we're not integrating and coming back to a presence of, alrighty, so after I did this work, I released this, and now what do I want to feel love? You gotta fill it up with something good that you want, that's more aligned with you. And then when you fill it up, you want to integrate all of that aspect. And of course, this is just a summary of the actual thing that takes place, even like if myself included, right? And not getting any support or doing things the old way is not going to lead you to the new way. And then realizing how much power you have to change your reality. And what you were saying about, I wanted to link back, is what you're saying about, like, it did take forever or like a long time, for things to shift. And for me, when I was saying, it's like everybody comes in for a different purpose, right? So for me, like, there are some that come here to destroy the old system, and then in simple terms, destroy the old system, create the new. And then there are the ones that are in the middle to help connect the bridge by destroying and creating at the same time. So I'm in the middle, where I am tackling both destroying the old, letting that go, and creating the new at the same time. Not everybody's like that. So depending on what your contract is for, that may also affect the timeline on the physical reality, and then may affect the ability to create a new reality, because maybe our mind, our humans, still thinking, oh, I want to go into only the create. But if you, like, for example, let's say if you're in the middle as well, where you're letting go of the old, destroying, helping humanity and yourself destroy the old stuff that doesn't serve, and creating the new, but you haven't quite done some of the letting go that's needed, and then you just want to straight go for the creation, but it takes this destruction and letting go before. It's like a prerequisite for
that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. It has to be looked at, and looking at it is something that is exclusive, no matter how many people we tell or share with. It's
Mhm.
exclusive to that person in the universe. That's what counts right there. What we can admit and acknowledge within ourselves at a
Mhm.
point of compassion and love and no judgment and condemnation.
Yeah.
Because we got to remember, how we feel about ourselves is why this world looks like the rat hole that it does. That's
Yeah.
really what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I think you brought this up at the beginning where we were kind of making a joke like that. We doubt ourselves, and what we have this patriarchal, not to be confused with masculine, because it's affected each and every one of us. It's a narcissistic environment, and each one of us has that programming. But that programming says, "Hey, something's wrong, and we're smart. We're going to fix it because we're the lesser gods,
Mhm.
and this is what we've attuned to and aligned to, and now we're breaking away, and it's fertile ground." But it's also new territory. It's like going into the holy womb. It's like going into the void. There's no template. You said that earlier. There's no owner's manual, right?
Manual, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
there.
So I feel like that. Uh, you know, I feel like that. What's coming out in 2024? You know, you and I can look at each other and say we have a common denominator. We're both souls,
Mhm.
or we both have had experiences with archangel consciousnesses, or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
When are we going to look at each other and say, you know what? I've been subjected to the human experience and the conditioning and the programming for this life and probably many, many, many others. And so have you. So we've both had experiences of pain. We both had experiences of suffering. We're coming to new points of awareness about those things. And let's understand that there is a common denominator that we've overlooked, which is the experience itself and the bodies that we hold. And that would include understanding that I'm love, you're love on the bright side, and
Very.
and that's an equal thing. But the
Mhm.
same holds true for our pain and
Yeah.
our suffering. Now
Yeah.
you may have gone through something that on the surface is a horrific situation and mine lesser. But in proportionate to my life existence, my pain is the same as yours. And in terms of the human experience, pain is pain. You know, it's all
Right.
the same thing. And I think that's where we get, we struggle, and we're getting better, but, I mean, we're struggling with differentiating because of the separation and the division and the
Mhm.
propaganda and the cultural impact and the religion and all the other stuff. We're all the same, period. And I think that might be why in the past, when we've had these cycles come to an end, there's been massive, geological situations, earthquakes, meteors, floods, and that type of thing. This is just my, theoretical opinion that I wouldn't promote. Like, oh, this is what's happening. No, but I feel like that part of the ascension opportunity that we have here, given Lemuria, given Atlantis, given all the things that have fallen and come and go, this is an opportunity uh, that we can do this because of the work and the honesty and the integrity and the sincerity of the conversations we're having with the universal and therefore each other, that we can actually do this because we do control everything. We control the weather. We control the bad actors. We control their intentions. We have the ability to literally create this reality beyond the cliches and beyond the words that we've I don't want to say wasted all these years, but I
That's
think
not
our
that.
I
No.
think our feet's on the fire now, and I think which is crazy because you would think Vell's out there with the government, Vell's out there with the Vatican, Vell's over here. Maybe the Vels are the walls that we put up over our hearts.
Mhm.
Maybe
And
that's what the Vels are.
yeah, and what you're saying about so there was something that I wanted to link back to is like the human experience and how to even like help to get closer to your heart. It could be sometimes being human and enjoying the little things, right? Playing
Right.
more, right?
Right.
Or on your day-to-day things, like for example, if you do something small and you made a decision where maybe it wasn't the best decision, well, how do you love yourself through that and be okay? And and with us, as far as star seeds and what we're here to do, there's the extra layer and layers of opportunities slash challenges that we may face, which is not always on the human level only, right? There are
Right.
forces sometimes that because you are shining so bright, that it will trigger, other energies. I just, to make it like more, simple, it ultimately is all energy, right? So
Right.
energy is not good, not bad. And as we're facing this and going through the process of integration, or even being open or thinking, oh, all right, if somebody's like thinking like, all right, how do I even get to my heart? Because it's not a simple process necessarily, but it starts with simple steps, right, of being human. And then the more you do that and you start building that remembrance of how much love there is, on your soul at a soul level, that's when it starts shifting, right? And sometimes things can be accelerated depending on, like, for example, how we're coming together, right? So you're bringing these beautiful unique gifts and I'm bringing my unique gifts too. And sometimes it's, we were not meant to do it all alone. We're meant to come together and support each other to either elevate, accelerate, to
True.
support, and everything. And as far as like the timeline, I felt like definitely anything and everything can change in the moment, just depends on the consciousness that we're vibrating at, right? And
Right.
then the ultimate thing that I really learned about this whole process is we were meant to have that freedom, just like how we're meant to have that freedom to make our own choices, that which was in a way taken away because of all this programming, and that was part of the human experience that we had to go through. But now that we're more aware, we have this awareness that we create our own reality, and
Right.
we change our energy depending how the vibration and the energetic signature and frequency that we're vibrating inside of us. That's what creates our reality and what we attract and what we do next and all of that. So there was like multiple multi-dimensional aspects of the same thing that we're facing. So like, for example, me talking or us talking, there's several different parallel dimensions going on at the same time as well, when we get to this level. And when I say level, nobody's
Yeah.
better than another,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
different layers, kind of like in that sense. So once we reach this point, but it also took a lot of work, and like you said, like the awareness of being, being in our humanness, right? Allowing ourselves not to judge ourselves, but to kind of, and that's a whole
That's a
different, that's a
that's a
problem.
key right there, isn't it?
It
I mean,
is, yeah.
that's really the key. You know,
Yeah.
we can point the finger.
Hmm.
We can point the finger of judgment. We can point the finger of someone judging someone else,
Yeah.
but it's the self judgment that drives the whole thing. Because the less judgment I have of myself, the less I'm going to have of others. And
Mhm.
that's not a cliche.
No, no,
That's not a cliche. You know what I
yeah.
often I think in terms of I don't. It's not. I trust. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. My faith is unshakable, and always will be. But I don't know. I don't know. I cannot prove to you, although I have my own experience and my own beliefs. You know, like you said earlier, this isn't how it goes for everybody else, but this is my thing. Um, we may not be as we may be worm dirt when this is all over,
Hmm. Yeah,
but we
as the
won't.
sun is
But
shining.
right, exactly right. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, in other words, how do we know that
Mhm.
technology hasn't reached a point? We've been duped for thousands of years. We're coming into this level of awareness. The more we tell ourselves we got this figured out,
Mhm.
I always go, well, how do you know? How do you know that there's not psychotropic warfare and we're getting implanted thoughts to the point that they're representing themselves as archangels or whatever the case is? Now, it's not to take away from any of these experiences because it's all us, but what I'm trying to say is it's all us. It's
Mhm.
all here right now. And like you said, the little things, you know, the getting caught up in the anxiety of what's going to happen when I get to this point is just as debilitating as the traumas that we got over from the past. And by the same token, what we were talking about earlier, be it uh, an addiction or overstaying ourselves out in the ethers, we're missing the boat. We're not present here as Todd, as Judy. This
Yeah.
is it. This is what we're not getting back here.
Mhm.
All those that's going on at the same time, been there, done that. But
Mhm.
this right here is all we got.
Yeah.
And I, to me, that's what's driving or being driven home more and more every single day. Does that mean I have all the answers? Does that mean I'm walking around in perfect balance and walking on water? Absolutely not. But it does mean that there are little things happening. Yeah,
Oh, right.
but it's like, but it's like little things are happening. Little things are happening every day that are building something that's not being like two steps up, one back, right? And I'm
Mhm.
talking about now. This is going to sound crazy, but like little things.
Mhm.
15 minutes of stretching, I've never done before.
Mhm.
Light weightlifting, never really done seriously before. Walks, whatever it is that we need in that moment.
Mhm.
That like you said, like after, which a lot of people can relate to, that pattern that we have both in the wake up experience and in the little cycles throughout, right? Which
Yeah.
is it hits you and you go, boom, okay, I'm going to go do this. And all of a sudden things just start happening for you. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. They unfold for you. They're natural. And that's okay. I mean, that's presence. I mean, to me, our conversion here is like a conversion into dream state, because time, I don't know about you, but a lot of people talked about
Mhm.
this for the last 3 or 4 years in the show, how time is going away. Well,
Oh, yeah, big
at
time.
some point it's really going away. There's no stresses of it left, no deadlines, no schedules, no
Mhm.
I've got to do this. you know this is a big thing. This is
Mhm.
huge, because now we can be allowed to be the free energy that we are without judgment,
Mhm.
and we can accept that in ourselves and each other, instead of all this, why did you do this and why did you do that and why don't you do this and why don't you do that, you
Right.
know hey.
You should do this. You shouldn't
Mhm.
do that. I was like, says who? Says you. Oh, okay,
Mm.
that you do that. I'm gonna do my thing. All the
Or you have to do this, or you're not a good light worker. Somebody told me, you can
oh,
only speak to your spirit guides if you're a vegan. i'm like
oh,
i'm like,
really? Oh,
okay,
yeah.
well, if that
It's
no, but if that works for you, great, but don't
yeah,
throw it on me. And
yeah.
I do think that this year, you hear less of, you need to do that, you have to do this. I'm talking about from people in these circles that we find ourselves in.
Those are directly related to the traumas and the conditionings that like that person still resonates with at some
Mhm.
level inside because it
Mhm.
hasn't quite worked through. Otherwise, it's like, oh yeah, you can totally disagree, but you'll be fine if somebody wants to be vegan or not. Like
Right.
it's like, and even myself included, I went through different phases, like where I was vegetarian, and then I never label myself because for me it was a very accelerated
You're an
ascension.
intuitive eater.
Oh, what?
And you're an intuitive eater.
Oh, yes, yes. I always went by, oh, okay, so this doesn't feel right, even though like this is supposed to be healthy, or I was supposedly eating all healthy, and yet I was in so much pain, and I was not feeling great at all, even eating health, supposedly the quote unquote healthy. So then I just had to let go of that and be like, oh, okay, again, the key is like being in the moment, and then having it's like after you have that first like sync alignment feeling and resonancy, then the more you take action from that place and from that energy, it gets easier and easier,
Yeah.
and you get stronger and better at it. But we have been preconditioned to not to follow that,
Right.
so
Right.
it's basically kind of how like I've been living my life. And then, but of course, because as a connector, because I'm still very much coexisting and vibrating at multiple levels at all times, because there's still a purpose for me to be in the 3D. So when I am in the 3D, I got to a point where I'm mastering more and more of, alrighty, so I'm at this at this dimension, so it works differently. Things are more dense. You gotta use a lot more things to connect things for people. So I have to bring in my shamanic side a lot more, and then also technology, the Arcturians, because I have connection with Arcturians too, so that they can connect the emotions with the mind, with the technology, and this that. So nothing, not bad or good. It's just like very depending on where I'm vibrating and what the purpose of me being in that dimension is at that time. And in order to do that, I gotta breathe and ground myself. I gotta ground. I gotta come back to myself in order to be authentic. And I still have patterns that I'm like working through, like some major, deeper inner child traumas, for example. That's a whole nother story. But so something
Yeah,
that
you just can. Do you have somewhere to go? Do you have somewhere to go?
me.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna open up a new topic, but I was like, let me let you
Oh, no, no,
comment.
no. Can you stay an extra 30 minutes? We go another 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm totally having so
Yeah,
much.
you just opened up several different things here. God, let me go back. You got like five different things. I'm pretty good at this. Hang
Okay,
on. So you were talking about, God, I forgot all of them. That's how good I am.
it's okay.
Oh, you
Resonancy
trip.
and
Oh, no, no. Well, one of the things was it wasn't the main one that got me. There was three main ones. One of them was Arcturians. And
okay.
I have some experience with Arcturians, and I know a lot of people have, or other star family.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit, and we'll go back to the other ones I remember, and anything you want to talk about. Uh, Tell me a little bit about your relationship with the Arcturian. And again,
Mhm.
I ask these questions so that somebody who is about to experience something like this or similar
Mhm.
uh, might have a little more code that they can approach it with, because we all know how these experiences challenge the ego and our confidence and et cetera, et cetera. We're still, we're still in this human body. But what is your relationship with the Arcturians? How did it start? And kind of what do you collaborate with them on?
So first, I want to say I work and collaborate with Pleiadians and Arcturians very closely, and Mintakas too.
Okay,
Um,
hang on. Okay, answer the question
okay, but
utilizing all three. No, 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 I'm good. All three, but I got to ask you, what was the last one?
oh, Mintaka. Mintakas
Mintaka.
are from Mintaka, and they are in the constellation of Orion.
Oh,
They're very water
interesting.
based, but it's not the water. The water here on the Earth is way more dense and way more dense than their original home. But they
Yeah.
lost their home and they became part of the Orion constellation. So they're and many of us who are more watery and all about beauty and just had biggest heart, they are the ones who have the most struggle being here because this realities and dimension is so dense. So I work with those three a lot together, actually,
Okay.
not
Okay.
necessarily separate. So
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to approach it that way
Yeah,
or
yeah.
more.
I was just saying include instead of like each one. You just include them all. Yeah, just keep going. You're doing perfect. You're doing perfect.
Okay, I was like, yeah, Todd. Okay, good. And this is great because you can keep up, and because we're all vibrating at this higher dimension, vibration, and while you're taking care of our bodies, and then this great feeling. so, so with Pleiadians, I definitely am in Mintakans. They definitely bring a lot of this mother, female, feminine, divine feminine lightness, nurturing, compassion, and love from more of a feminine aspect, nature. And so I love to work with them together with Arcturians because Arcturians, although wonderful, awesome technology, they are very intellectual, but they admit they are not very tapping into the emotions, which
Are
then
any of them?
well, no, some of them are like Pleiadians and Mintakans are very tapped into the emotions. Now, the question is also whether it does go back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, do we even feel safe to touch in such a raw aspect of ourselves as far as emotions? Because there's a lot of traumas, right?
Right.
So when we bring in when Pleiadians come in or Mintakans come in, they're gonna come in very subtle because that's their nature. They want to
Right.
approach it in a very gentle way, and many of us are not used to that. That we are used to shouting, right? Sometimes the energy needs to be so loud or so shouting in order for you to even hear something. But they're not going to be that way. So until you start the process of loving yourself and at least meet them a little bit halfway or a little bit more and do some basic stuff, then they can help you more. Because even if they are talking to you, but if you're in a state where all you know is nothing but love, the quite opposite of love, you can't hear them even if they're connecting and talking
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
So that's
And
why the
then,
experience they
yeah.
work all together
Yeah.
to get your
And
attention.
that's like your little star cluster. I mean, that's like your lineup. Like I got a certain lineup with
Mhm.
mine.
Yeah,
If I look at energetic characteristics, whatever we call them or whatever the names may be.
right.
But it also applies, I think, to what you're saying, uh, because look, it's all over the place.
Mhm.
So just by the same token, as you're saying, your personal field
Yeah.
has to be compatible in order to collaborate or connect or commune with these energies. And like in this case, with the three you're talking about. By the
Mhm.
same token, there's plenty of people, if not all of us, that are connected and in no uncertain terms in our own knowing and even maybe from those around us, we're connected. But it doesn't mean because of our connection that we get a free pass on the stuff we need to look at.
Right.
Right. So I feel like this is a great conversation because it's a real conversation. I'm talking about you, not me.
Mhm.
And it kind of exemplifies what I'm feeling for 2024, which is, uh, you know, it's time to show up.
Yeah.
It's time to show up. And showing up isn't just like you said. God, that was great what you said too. That was the third thing. You can't just jump into the creating. You can,
Yeah.
okay, and you will, and I will. But at the same time, we can't. We're not getting a free pass for anything. Anything that's not been recognized and acknowledged within ourselves. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's gotten to the point now where it's affecting our creativity. I know it's happened to me. I've gone into a hiatus for 2 months, and I've
Mhm.
been doing this for 12, 13 years,
Mhm.
every single day. You know, and 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 I've been watching it, and I think it goes back to what you're talking about. I think it goes back to we're now in this place where we've gone from phase one is I'm awake
Mhm.
to phase two. What do I do with it? I don't know. To phase three, we've got enough clarity, enough of the coast has been cleared that we can now start to proceed forward. Okay,
Mhm.
but it's something that is literally built from the heart. So, what am I saying to you? What am I asking of you? What am I asking you to do? Uh, uh, am I hearing from my heart? Am I asking from my heart? Because
Mhm.
it's not too hard to figure out these days what the difference is. Because you know what? The heart, I notice, doesn't have a lot of words. It just
No,
speaks in
no.
little bites. And
Yeah.
the other parts of us have these long, drawn out stories and narratives and explanations.
Yeah. And yeah, and I know that that's ultimately the, well, for lack of a better word, goal and what we're striving for. And and sometimes we don't know what we don't even know, right? So
True. We don't know.
until
That's the point.
we're
We don't know.
present, by breathing, by grounding, doing these, implementing self-care practices and self-love, right? And sometimes it's not just one or the other, it's really together, doing those practices while you're getting help, while you're being in the present and allowing yourself to notice, okay, how do I recognize if I have a resistance coming up? Guess what? Usually resistance means you're about to shift big time. You're about to go through huge growth and it's going to be so beneficial to you where we're going next. But it's just like the caterpillar, before it turns into a butterfly, it needs a certain amount of pressure and force, and
Hmm.
it's going to be uncomfortable, right? So how do you recognize? But you can't have everything that's uncomfortable, because then you need also stability with things. So
Right.
it's like you don't want to do. You want the whole team to go together. Yeah, if you tackle one only or two things, yeah, you can definitely go much faster. But you can go much further if you are aware of all the different aspects, and also choosing, okay, perhaps the next, this, my tentative, scheduling. I say tentative because as you shift, things shift too, right? But like, oh, okay, let's tackle this little areas of these three areas, whether you're dealing with some kind of addiction, right? And or you're wanting to find a more stable home, or something, right? Or feel more stable, and not necessarily just a home, but feel more stable inside. And then you want to have more joy, for example. So maybe you're tackling those threes and be like, alrighty, and then not instead of like overthinking too much, because that goes back into the mind, like,
Right.
all right, consistency and also letting go. And then, oh, how do I recognize when I'm having resistance come up for me, right? So all of those, like, and there's definitely more, because we have such, I feels like, oh, it's such a short time, a short
We
amount of
can
time.
we can do. We're already at an hour and a half. We can do another show later in the year.
Oh, okay.
We definitely have to get back together.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the next topic that came in was like walk-ins and soul merge, because I'm a soul merge, by the way.
Okay. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We
Yeah.
let's stay 10 minutes on this, and but yeah, we'll go 10 minutes. That's a good subject. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
haven't. Because I want to connect some dots there.
Yeah. Because yeah.
What were you just talking about? I forgot. See the 3D. There's the 3D brain.
There's so much.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird because
Yeah.
it's really strange. I mean, I said for I don't even know, like maybe going back 3 or 4 years on the show, I'd be like listening and going. You know what? I'm starting to think that the biggest challenge we have is getting used to the energy itself.
Mm.
Like the energy itself speaks for itself. The energy, it's like a person that's lit and walks into a room, and what happens? They shine on the shadows, right? People react and people project, and but that's what the energy's like. The energy's
Yeah.
taking no prisoners here. It's taking no prisoners at all, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not a punishment. We're not supposed to suffer,
Mhm.
um, but it's very interesting watching the effects that it's having
Yeah.
on, and I'm really not on social media much at all these last 2 3 months. I've
It's
just totally, for the first time, I just checked out.
yeah.
But what I notice is there's still a lot of contention, comparison, competition,
Mhm.
superiority. I mean, when I'm pulling up light workers and they're talking about Trump or Biden, I'm going, we're
Mhm.
not even like, are we going to be there? And I don't mean that for that subject. I'm just talking about, you know, in an environment that we are looking to expand and open, because that's really the key. The key is it's not whether we can see something in ourselves, it's whether we're open to the fact that we can't. And you know how it is. Like
Yeah.
I remember when I went on the streets when I first. A lot of people know the story, but when I first woke up, I chose to go on the streets for 2 years, and I would run into my son, 16-year-old son, every now and then, and he'd say, "Dad, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good."
Mhm.
Every time he tell me, "I'm good. I'm good." And
Yeah.
you see that a lot out there, right? People say, "Oh, I cleared that. I cleared that. I'm done. I'm done." And then one day I realized I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Like in the true literal sense of the word, I'm not good. Am I bad? Am I gonna go down the drain? No. but it was the healthiest thing in the world for me to say, I'm not good, but I'll be fine. Or I don't know. I don't
Right.
know
Yeah,
this,
I
right?
don't know. That has been a big one. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to say I don't know when I don't know. I truly don't know. It's okay. But it has, I mean, it goes back to those traumas and the preconditionings and the survival, mode, right? I've always had I had a lot to do a lot of inner work revolving authorities. Anybody who had this bigger authority, I would shrink like a little chihuahua or like a little hamster. And I
Right.
was like, what the heck is going on with me? I'm madder than this. But it's, and then all of a sudden this huge fear comes in, and then I can't even say I don't know. And then I would judge myself especially for the longest time. I was like, what's wrong with you? How can you not say I don't know or this or that? And then I realized, oh, see, it's just an extension of what was taught through me and the different karmas, different ancestral things going on. So just realizing how much we're working through. We're not just doing our work right now. We're healing the ancestral traumas too, the centuries and ages of like slavery, addiction, and what you name it, right? So that's why when we're working through it, we think, gosh, how can you, like, we know, if we're judging ourselves as a reflection of what has brought over for us to heal, right?
Right.
And
Right.
when you say like when you recognize the I really don't know or I'm not okay, it's like that wasn't just this shift, it was a humongous
That's
galactic.
another. I think that's another part of the expansions is you move into a greater space of I don't know. Michelangelo, 87 years old. I'm still learning. I saw
Uh-huh.
a meme the other day that says th- something basically like, the
Yeah.
more I know I don't know. you know,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. To me, saying that is basically saying I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm open. Um, because there's still, I study a lot of these platforms, and I have for many, many years, because I try to pick up on things and see things, and I think that's what we're doing. A soul goes into a particular incarnation to
Uh-huh.
experience and gather code, to gather experience, and the only way to learn anything is to experience it. You can tell me till you're blue in the face about, and it can be very interesting and convincing and so on, about soul merge and about walk-in, and some of, like, say, I've heard on the subject this or that or this or that, but the thing is, until I experiencing it and hearing it are two different things, right? And I'll just go back to you with this, but I mean, that's what I was trying to say
Uh-huh.
earlier is, yeah, I get the soul, I get the spirit. I'm not obviously taking anything away from that. Believe me, I know that we're infinite, but for the sake of this discussion and in order to kind of accentuate the point, is that we're human beings. We're human beings, and this is the part that we haven't aligned with. You and I are aligned in every other dimension, but here, we're using us as an example.
Yeah.
This is where, yeah, we look different. We come from different places. We're different genders. We're different ages.
Mhm.
But this is where we can actually meet, where we can say, I don't know. I was writing a piece last night, and I said, basically, I am, I am, oh God, it's going to sound wrong, but I am scared, but I am fearless. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's like me admitting to myself as a man in this particular situation, in writing last night or the night before, it was revealing and it was liberating for me to say, you know what, this scares me a little bit because I don't know. But I think that's part of that, that magic is we're never going to know. We're never going to have the whole thing. We're always going to have 10% held back, and that's where
Yeah.
we take each other by the hand and step into the womb and the darkness, the void, and create our way out, basically.
Yeah. And yeah, and I mean, I guess that goes back to like really the presence, right? And the soul or in the energy recognition. Like energy goes, works and is vibrating at every level, whether you're at a soul level or if you're in the void or you're in this human form, whatever dimension. It doesn't discriminate against any dimension. It just exists and it just is, and that's what we are all made of, anyways.
Right.
So if we are not accepting this energy, for example, let's say take the energy of like of um, of an aspect of us, right? Our little, like little Judy in our inner child, right? Little Judy. It's just another version. It's an energetic template of that other version of me. And if I'm not accepting her as she is, I'm not accepting the energy of her, right?
Right.
And I'm
Right.
also accepting that, like if I'm not open to be able for that energy to evolve, to grow, to shift into something that feels more aligned with who I am and who I want to be next, then I'm rejecting that energy. That is, you're also rejecting other energies, right?
Yeah.
Like, so like it's like connection. Everybody, we're all connected, but at the same time, yeah, we do have, like, the drops in the ocean, right? We can have individual drops, but together we're also connected, but we're also connected separately through the individual drops.
Right.
And to make it more manageable as far as consciousness and be able to go through the ascension and be able to ascend at a more balanced way, then yeah, we do need to tackle it in a drop in a drop level in a drop level.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, because it's
and then,
going to, yeah, it's going to keep coming, you know. I mean,
yeah. Mhm.
like you talked about the authority thing. I was laughing because I had my history.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's like, let's say that it's anger within
Mhm.
myself or anger that comes at me from others, you might say, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's still me. And anger isn't wanting to dominate my life. It's wanting to be acknowledged. So I think what happens is it's just human nature. This is what we're working out, it seems like, is
Mhm.
where I say repeatedly, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me. That person I'm looking at
Avoidance,
is
right?
not me. Or I don't do that.
Yeah.
That's fixed in me, or whatever the case is. Openness is openness. Openness is wide open. And I think and many of us have, if not all of us, regardless of the fluctuations of this transition we call ascension, we've had uh, indisputable experiences of our divinity in form. And, I call it the wow. You know what I mean? Like wow, wow. You know what I mean? And we want to tell everybody, you know what happened to me? Da 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 da.
I call
But
them
yeah,
ahas
uh
sometimes,
huh. Yeah.
but works. Wow, ahas.
So tell us about a soul merge and a walk-in, and what you know about it and how you've experienced that.
So I'm a soul merge where I have two souls in this one human template body and
Okay, let me
form.
take that in. I've heard this before. I've heard
Okay.
this before, and I'm trying to remember because it wasn't too long ago this
Mhm.
came up, and it really affected me.
Okay.
It was about 3 or 4 months ago. No, no, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean I want to learn. That's why I'm here.
Oh, no, no,
So
no, no. Like, yeah, I didn't take it that way. Yeah, it's
so what is
that
so
resonance.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what is okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'm a soul merge, and so this is fast forwarding to now. I didn't find out about it right away. It unfolded more the more work, inner healing I did. And then versus a walking is one, a newer soul, a new soul comes in and
Would
will,
that be a higher aspect of the person?
well, the
And I know,
traumas are still there to be healed,
but I
but
mean, like let's say that we have, I don't know, because I've heard so many different descriptions. But like, okay, so you a person has a soul that's been with them the whole time,
Mhm.
and there's, for whatever reason, maybe expansion or to deal with something, a higher aspect of that soul or a totally different soul?
A totally different soul, but there is strong connection between those souls
Okay.
because and then I don't want anybody thinking that it's like, oh, the new soul came in and took over against the other soul. And then just like boom, take over, like a competition or something like that. It's not like that. At a soul level, there are contracts and there are opportunities. And
Mm,
like when we talked about even freedom, right? Anything can change at any point depending on free will as well. So if this soul that originally was born in this body was going out and about and there was accumulated a lot of traumas, didn't deal with that, stay in the 3D, and it chose to continue being that way, which is fine. Got to a point, just like me, I got to a point that was this body couldn't take anymore. It was just way too much trauma. And the old soul that is still luckily residing within me, but it's more integrated now, um, was not able to handle with the gifts that it had, was not capable, fully capable to handle and heal those aspects or to set the boundaries, for example,
okay.
translation into like a human
Mm,
experience is like, okay, you gotta set your boundaries, you gotta start saying no, you gotta be able to be more authentic, start loving yourself, things that require to be just like a car maintenance. You need oil tuning, you need gas, you need this, all these different things, right? So human body needs that. And so it wasn't getting all of that. So I'm not gonna go super detailed into all the reasons, but in
mm,
that case, you reach a point of where it's not sustainable anymore as it is then, right? That's
okay.
when opportunities will open up.
So
And
you had another, so your soul remained, the one you came in with, and
because
then,
on the contract
then,
level, I
right.
chose to keep it. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then, yeah, I'm just trying to understand it. So, and
Mhm.
then another soul that you obviously have a contract and collaborative relationship with stepped in as designed at this
Mhm.
point
At this, yes.
and how long ago did that happen? Do you know?
The actual thing, the actual process took the switch. I mean, not switch. The new incoming took was in 2016 for sure, but I did not receive
When
the.
that happened? Yeah. Okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
I didn't know until later.
Okay.
I didn't even know I had news. So I just thought I was like, oh wow, I know all these other things now. I just thought
Okay.
I got upgraded somehow after going through the near death experience, and then later found out it was because the new soul came in. And when you have a walking though, that's when you experience where the person before that traumatic experience happened was like this, and all of a sudden they're completely different.
Right.
They probably already left and are no longer in contact with anybody, no family, friends, or anybody from the old life.
Yeah.
They all of a sudden they don't even remember sometimes.
Oh, wow.
That's a walking. That's a usually, I'm not saying every time. And some of the walkings, they don't even know they're so merged. They just think, oh, because you get all these different. Usually, it requires a new soul with more powerful abilities in order to be able to handle because the other one wasn't able to quite handle. Or sometimes it's a karmic contract that that soul was only meant to be in that body and go through what they need to go through up to that point before the next phase comes in, right?
Right.
But
Right.
like again, like they don't have necessarily all the manual written down basically.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, like essentially, the same things occurring. The human vessel
Mhm.
um, is hitting a period of transition or elevation or expansion or they're
Yes.
worn out or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
and so there's a which speaking energy. So
Mhm.
there's a new composition of energy now. However, that gets there. That's yeah, that's probably one of the better explanations I've gotten over the years. I've asked many times, well, what is a walk-in? What is this? What is that?
Mhm.
So, like, this, just so I can get an idea, and again, so people can that might run into this, that are new to this, or something just happened or is about to happen.
Mhm.
Um, what is what is your day like? Do you? Because I think again, a lot of people they don't need to look at me. A lot of people, well, they look at this, and they'll say, oh, they'll have a preconceived, notion of what a light worker is, or a star seed is, or someone who says they're awake, or a metaphysician, or whatever the case is. But
Mhm.
like there's so many different walks of life, and I'm just curious, like, do you have a disciplined day? Do you spend a certain amount of time in meditation? Do you have certain things that you do for your spiritual health every day in your spiritual lifestyle, that are, like, say, affecting the mind, the heart, the body,
Mhm.
and of course, food, whatever the case is. But like, is it something that you have to really stay on top of, or is it something that's kind of running on, an organic basis?
Both. Sometimes I do need to have that discipline because the mo- especially on how the solar flares have, there's so much incoming new energies, and you don't always know how much integration or what you may need in order to more lovingly integrate, these
Hmm.
energies. So I definitely have to go moment by moment, being very present, but at the same time, being very aware of how do I deal with also the human aspect of things, right, on the 3D, the material world, because that's also very important, part of the sustainability, right? But what I used to switch back and forth between those dimensions before, and when I was like, okay, now I'm on the 3D, okay, on the physical, okay, let's take care of this. It was very much like, it felt like, okay, I'm doing 21 puzzle at a time. It's gonna take forever, right? So, but that was kind of how I was, before. And then I know that we went through some massive shifts where different dimensions now are all inter overlapping, and now we're finally at a point where we're actually coexisting. So I can be on the fourth, fifth dimension and be like, oh, over there, oh yeah, I see. It's like kind of like hologram. Yeah, kind of like hologram. Oh, I see. Okay, so that aspect right there is the 3D, but now I can recognize very quickly. Oh, that's not something I'm engaging right now because I am doing some other things on a higher consciousness level right now that requires my attention, my energy. That's happening. That can happen. It's over there happening. Okay, I'm over here. Just redirect my focus where I need to be. So some days is does take more discipline because sometimes I'm surrounded by 3D.
Yeah, that's when you gotta get the cloak out.
Well,
That's
I've been through that period, and I think many people who are awakening, that have been awakening, especially this year, last year, or the last within the last 3 years, they're definitely needing to go through what you said, put the cloak, or be more like discretion, use discretion,
yeah.
work smart, be a little bit more hidden because they do need to go through that period of restoration to learn about themselves, to reflect, honestly, and to get their body stronger. So
Yeah.
that's a really crucial part of it. I was there for several years in that clothes,
Oh, I
but
was just actually making a joke.
oh, sorry, okay, no, 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 no,
I
yeah,
met a, I
stuff.
met a, right when I reawoke, I just, I never met, how it is. You never meet people that are in
Yeah,
these circles unless they're online. It's changing now as time goes on. But
yeah.
when I first reawoke,
Uh-huh.
I met, it was a parent, it was the mother of, one of my kids who was like 16 at the time, one of his friends, and she was from Sicily.
Mhm.
And I don't even think I'd started Sology. Um, but a lot of stuff was happening to me, which I was writing about,
Mhm.
divine episodes and stuff. Anyway, we started talking, and she was telling me, I'm a Sicilian, and I have the vision, and my grandmother had it, and my great great grandmother had it,
Mhm.
And I said, like, can you do? And she says, well, I can be in a room and I can cloak myself and nobody sees me. And
Yeah.
by God, if I didn't witness that about 2 or 3 times, uh, that was kind of one of the first conscious experiences I had where you actually saw, like you're talking about, the two different dimensions, right? Kind
Yeah.
of like overlaid.
Uh-huh. Well, so I want. Oh, was that done now? Because I wanted to tell you about why I brought that up. Because it was like,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I know it was a joke, but like it was like it's very real though. Like it's totally there's time for everything, and people that are not always aware that after they wake up to these, they wake go through the awakening and those initial stages, they think that they're like, oh, I'm just gonna go out there in the world and say everything I know, and although that could be
Uh,
one way, but without fully integrating and looking at your own stuff, it can come off a lot, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then the ultimate purpose was for me that to realize that my purpose is not to just say something. Like if the person is ready to hear, or the people that need to hear are ready, yeah, I'll say something, and I'll go to that level of higher consciousness to say all that stuff, and put it out there. But if people are not ready for that, I don't need to go to that level. I can
right,
go and be like, oh, hey, as you are, I don't know, going about your day and it's stressful, are you taking some breaks in between things to kind of
yeah,
come back to yourself and then ease the mind? Like those are like super simple terms that anybody can like understand, kind of like that, right? So changing the words I'm using, the energy behind the words I'm using is super important. It's not about the words, it's about the energy. So even like if like I was saying, like, but surrounded by 3D, when I say is the vibration, the energy, I can have a truck honking nonstop at me, but if the energy is just like it's not really that low vibration, it doesn't really affect me as much as somebody who's directing the energy towards me
right,
because they got triggered by me, for
right,
example, because I
right.
shine the light on something that's already existing in them. But that also takes a level of like, okay, being compassionate and loving. That's because I went through that and I didn't know any better back then. But it's all about, all right, so now I choose, all right, do what am I staying in the 3D to help transmute this energy, to lighten it up? Let's bring some jokes or whatever. Not everything needs to be so serious, kind of thing. Let's play a little. Or is this crucial that you do look at the trauma, or
Yeah,
that you do recognize that something is happening, right?
yeah,
So like, time and place for everything. So that's kind of like how trying
yeah.
to answer your original question though before I
No, no,
start.
I think that's good. No, I mean, no, I mean, but this is reality. This is real time. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm really, 4,000 plus shows. I'm tired of talking about the stuff. I
Mm,
want to talk about what's happening right now in a way that we never have.
yeah.
And I think that's a really good point what you're bringing up, because we all experience projection. We have to be on our toes. Where do I do this and I don't see it, or you know what I mean, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but my experience, I find that if I am, like so many of us have been at times, and for some of us, the vast majority of the time,
Mm,
a recluse, um, which I don't just mean physically. I mean also, you can be a recluse and not see anybody and be on social media 24 hours a day, and you can
mhm.
you can
Right.
still experience these energies that I'm leading up to, which is projection. I found, and it's not a perfect science, but I have found more and more, uh, as time goes on, when projection comes my way and it's obvious,
Mhm.
I just can't engage anymore. And it doesn't matter who it is, what it is, how it is, when it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I take my vision off myself or my continued self introspection. But it's
Mhm.
like, I don't want to play there anymore. I don't
Yeah.
want to play in blame and shame and externalization, and division and separation and superiority. I realized that a long time ago doing this show. People come on and say, "Yo, those people aren't awake." And then one day I went, "Wait a minute. If they're saying those people aren't awake, then they're saying that they're, you know what I mean? Like we've got to admit these things." Okay.
Yes, yes.
So on that subject, I want to go collective before we get out of here.
Okay, yeah.
So
So
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
one quick question is, are we okay with the soul merge and the walkings,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah? Okay, just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
No,
Okay.
no, you're yeah, I thought it was great. Uh, on a collective basis, whether you receive collective intel or not, you did allude to that earlier. You said that you got information in 16 and 17 about what was coming and so on. You didn't know exactly what it was and all that. You
Mhm.
know, after hearing for 4 and 5 years on an annual basis about the solar flash and the and this and that and 3 days of darkness, and I'm not knocking anything. I'm just trying to make a point or clear the table to make a point or to get a question answered unencumbered by those things. But what's your feeling? Like, how do you think we're doing? What do you think's going to happen? Whether you've received it directly in your own right or whether it's just what you can gather if you feel like answering it. And I'm not trying to prove anything or make anything right or wrong. I'm just curious as to what people actually think is happening, how we're doing, and what do they think is going to happen.
On the collective level, I feel like there's different templates, versions of reality taking place. So there's the one that is still very much mainly 3D, which I respect, because
Mm,
everybody who's still there who is not necessarily open, they may have a soul contract that is, that's where they're meant to be. They're serving a purpose too. So it's not for us to judge, right? And we all have been there because we all had traumas, and when we had traumas, we were vibrating at a lower frequency. And then there is the I'd say just a generic, okay? So let's say you got the 3D Earth here going on, you got the 5D Earth going on, and of course there's above and in between, right? But you have these two, and then you have the overlap, right? Wait, am I doing this right? No, I'm not doing very good. Oh, there you go, something like that. The overlap, right? Where you may have people who know, like, even notice things, they're open, but they don't necessarily need to speak, or they don't neither do they know how to speak about consciousness or everything that we're talking about today, but doesn't mean they're not awakened or that they are not waking up. Now, kind of what you said about, oh, that person is not awakened. It's like, well, maybe that person is awakened in a different way, maybe you're awakened in a different way,
hmm
right?
True, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just and then many of us, as we go through this ascension, and it goes back to the initial pain, discomfort, suffering. Then that creates distraction, and then we
right.
feed off that that apparently sometimes I lose my ability to speak, right? Distraction. And so I feel like in the collective level, that there is a sense of these different aspects of reality taking place at the same time,
Yeah,
and that the more we are free from judging or from making assumptions of any one reality, and we refocus on ourselves more, then we're going to get ahead, and we're going to pick and choose our own reality, and we'll write our own contract of how we want to go forward, right? And how much of a difference we can make on the collective level. But it really just starts on the individual level, so that we can, like, for example, this year I'm feeling a lot of collaboration. Talking to you, that's one for sure. That's a big one right here. It's a support, collaboration, expansion, right? And everything else that goes in there and more to come. And so, as far as, oh, okay, So I am also getting like the Pleiadians or Arcturians and Mutakas wanting to say something. That's okay to.
Oh, well, let's extend a little bit further now. Let's go.
Oh, oh no, okay. Oh, your viewers are like, oh my gosh, you gotta go back.
No,
But
we're good. We're good. I like the long play. That's why I do 90 minutes now. And then if we want to go longer, we'll go longer. But yeah,
okay, great.
thank you.
Okay. Um, yes, time is not linear. So, but as far as what, so they all, I'm gonna combine what they're saying instead of all specifically separately. But what they're saying right now is really there's so many people, so many souls already ready to expand,
Right.
but then sometimes they focus on trying to stop something from happening. And I was like, wow, okay. I was like, I have to get past my humanness and just say it as it is. So because I'm like, I don't like triggering people, because it brings up uncomfortableness. But
Well, triggers are activations, and activations are triggers. So
right, right. And so same thing with, like okay, let me go back here. Hold on a second. Let me breathe. So many souls are ready to expand, and yet so many say they're ready, but then they retract and they want to go hide when the opportunity comes. And that's because there's a part of their human level existence that's resisting something great that's coming. So that part is when it's kind of like the imposter syndrome, where they talk about self-sabotaging, that kind of thing.
right, right.
Something, and guess what, the opportunity is right here and it's right showing up, and then there's something old, they're still there. And but that's when you need to take the courage to get past that in
Yeah.
order to get to the next thing.
That's so funny because that courage has come up in the last 10 days or so in a variety of different ways. And one of those ways is if you go to the map of consciousness
Yeah.
uh, and you go up, you get to pride. And after pride is courage. And there's I think, a thicker line at that point. And from courage, it's neutrality, and then all of almost like the lower chakra old paradigm controls up to pride, and then the courage, you make that leap. Like courage is the leap, and I think courage is a huge word right now. And what you're saying is so real too, because uh, part of what's 2024 too is we are going to say what we got to say,
Yeah.
and we're no longer going to hold back because we are going to trigger somebody, understanding that the intention is pure, it's innocent, genuine, and real, and it's literally in the Trinity energy. You're not trying, it's not, in other words, energy is energy. So if it's coming out
Yeah.
as pure intention and on, then that's what it remains. Somebody can grab anything and turn it into something else through
Right.
distortion, archonic influences, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and one big one that myself included went through this, trying to send love to everybody.
Hmm.
But depending on the level of ascension and how much light you're shining,
Right.
it's like if you are, on a, let's say example is in the physical level, you're in a completely dark room, pitch dark room, and all of a
Right.
sudden you bring a freaking industrial light shine and then turn that thing on. Guess what? It's too much for the system.
It would fry us.
Yeah.
It would
So
fry
that's
us.
where we go through phases in integration, and we go through the cycle of like, okay, gotta release, we gotta detox, we gotta cleanse, we gotta reprogram, we gotta bring more new stuff, joy, happiness, and new behaviors, all of that, and then integrate, get the clarity, and then the next. Because that's what I did, right? I overloaded my system completely when I went through the ascension, through the awakening, actually. So that's why I had to do a lot of body work, a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of it. And then at times I'm just like completely not even up there, because that's what I'm required to do, is really fully be present with my humanness. And the humanness is sometimes, some days, crying all day,
That's right.
and,
Sometimes,
and then, oh, poor me, crying like a baby. Some days I like that,
yeah, yeah,
And then I was
yeah.
like,
Do
oh,
you,
okay,
do
much better.
you? I know a lot of us have
Yeah,
from time to time. I know we've gotten tired.
yeah,
Beam me up, get me out of here. I'm done.
right.
But also boredom.
What was that? The
In
last
boredom.
one?
You were talking earlier about how, in comparison, you know, where we came from, and then to be in this environment, which by everyone I've ever talked to that's connected to different aspects, this is the toughest school. Doris Cannon said that that we've ever set up. Um, but and to your point earlier about how slow it can be, how dense it is, and therefore how slow it is. You were talking about the other type of water world. Um, but do you ever get bored with, because I mean, this for me, it's like ascension, all this stuff. We've been plugged in, we're doing our work, we're following our purposes, da, 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 working on ourselves, keeping ourselves accountable, and all that stuff's going on,
Uh,
along with the little 3D stuff around you in the peripheral and all that.
yeah.
And sometimes I think we get to the point where we go, man, what is the point? Because we get especially this year. This year we get like 15 downloads at one time, and they
Yep.
come in and bam, where we used to have 2 weeks to recover, now 2 days later we got another 15 coming in. So
Yep.
it gets a little, and I agree with you, we can't do it any faster, and I think we're doing it pretty fast, probably as fast as we can. But
Yeah.
like, do you ever say, it's moving too slow, I'm bored, I know what's coming, I can feel it, I know what the potential is, I'm ready to make it happen, or whatever the case is. And then of course I got to remind myself, you know what? You're here for the journey, and as soon as you're gone, you're going to wish you were back. So, but do you ever get bored with it? In contrast to the remembrances and connectivity you have to your other multidimensionality and aspects incarnations.
Right. So, as far as your question is being bored, I don't get bored, but I do get, there's frustrations that come along the way. It's like, oh, why am I waiting? What's going on? I already did this work, Oh gosh, another one, or something similar. I thought I healed it, kind of like. But and then I think the difference now between how I started, like the emotions are still there, because
Mm,
but guess what, they are part of our experience, they
yeah,
are part of being human. And it's okay to feel frustrated, it's okay to feel angry, and then express in different things, and healthy, ultimately it's like we want to strive to express them in healthy ways and have healthy tools to help us navigate through that. And so for me, not so much boredom, because I was like, there's always something. So for me, I guess because I am so tapping into my inner child that I love to play. So whenever I'm like, I'm not doing these things, I'm like, okay, first thing I want to do, I want to play, I want to do something fun and exciting, like that. So then it's something that I look forward to do.
right, right.
But for me, my equivalent to maybe somebody else's maybe boredom is, I do get frustrated. I do go through moments like what you said. It's like, oh my gosh, we just got 15 downloads. I finally
Yeah,
integrated it. Like the same
yeah,
thing. But then I realized we also have a choice we have a choice up to a certain point, because sometimes our humanness just want to go, you know what? I just want to do what I'm comfortable, and this is really not the case as far as ascension and growth. You
that's
can't.
right. That's the problem. That's the problem. Once you step through, or once it happens, you can't go back. You can't go back. You just can't.
You can change it through your intention and what you want to manifest, and reward. Perhaps kind of like what they say, the saying, "Be careful what you wish for,"
Yeah,
right? And then we
right.
wish. Then like what I wished for was like, all right, I have no time to waste. Let's go. I'm gonna go right into my soul's path. Let's go. And then went to that like that on my ayahuasca. And then, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what was I thinking?
Yeah, not only that, but you get a download. I mean, this has been happening to me for years.
Like,
I've kind of calmed it down, but like you get a download, like a specific download, like about Sology, right? And I'll be like, okay. I mean, it was like in 2018, I started saying we're going to have a network, and this is what we're going to do. It took it actually. We announced it a year ago today. It took that long. It took whatever that was, 4 or 5 years for it to actually materialize. I've had that happen so many times, and I know so many people too. Like, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to write this book. It's going to be worldwide. You know.
I know, me
And,
too. I was like, where's my book?
all right.
No,
Well,
no.
and I think that's another thing too is that
Yeah.
I just experienced this today with a collaborator. I didn't mention it to them, but I got a strong download this morning, and so we've been collaborating for probably consistently for a year and a half, and I don't know, you know how it is. It all just comes in, right? All
Right.
these pieces like Tetris just start yeah, and
I love
and
tattoos, by the way. I used to
right.
play crazy.
Well, the message was everything that you all have done is like that. Like I was shown a picture of it. I guess you could actually put any of us in that spot, right? Like
Mhm.
we look at you, we look at me, we look at a group of people, look at the people here. So much of what's been put in was almost like it was on hold to reciprocate, right? Like it was almost like we were in this phase. A lot of people talk about 2012 to 2017. Some go to 2022 because that was the end of the 10-year period, right? Um, but anyway, uh,
I agree.
but you know what I mean. But I was shown that everything is upside down. Like I was told this about Sology way back. I was told back in the first year. I was told don't ever look at the number of likes or the number of views or the number of comments or the number of people in the community. Just
Yeah.
don't look at it because it's upside down.
Yep.
And so I wonder a lot, especially this year, because of the way things have accelerated and the way things are accelerating, not just in our growth, but also in you could say like the deconstruction of the matrix apparatuses. Okay.
Mhm.
That our abundance is here and it's going to come in like almost like we've already done the bulk of the work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Almost like you hear the story of, or the adage of 90% of achievement is making up your mind to do it. The other ten is right. So it's almost like we know that we make things happen in the energetic field.
Hmm.
And I guess what I'm saying is, on an energetic basis, the work that we've done over the last 10 plus years, um, we haven't seen the physicality of it yet. You got visitors? Is it
No,
like
no, I
tourists?
was looking at my window because it's raining. I was like, it
Oh,
went from super sunny and then it's raining now.
yeah.
It's okay. Hey, it's all good.
That's what happens. It cleanses everything.
No,
Oh,
but
I've
I
kept I've
agree with
kept you.
you
I've
with,
kept you. Huh?
I saw the word harvest.
Yeah.
We've done so much of the
Yeah.
planting the seeds,
Right.
we water the soil, and then there's always needs to be a period of being in the dark, not doing anything so that it can actually absorb the nutrition, the minerals, and the elements before it can. Then once it hits that, then it's just gonna start growing. And then once it reaches a certain point of growth, even though it may not be even showing up on the earth above the soil, it's already growing.
Right.
But then everything feels like it's not moving or doing anything,
Right.
but it's doing a lot already. And then once it hits out in the world, it's just like discretion versus now it's not the time to care so much all the time about who we're going to be triggering. It's a time to shine our light, to
Right.
be doing what it feels aligned, and to kind of have the courage to move forward, basically. And so
Yeah.
that's about like now it's like more of the harvest. Okay, let's get everything we done, and then let's start harvesting. What
Well,
we.
you spoke to that earlier. You said something about because so many of us are in a role of
Yeah.
sharing intel and etc.
Mhm.
And you said something earlier. You were like, you had this realization. It wasn't exactly like this,
Okay.
but the energy of it was, and you were basically saying you had this moment of, I'm not gonna say it's not about this, it's about that, but it's like more. It's less about that and more about being that, right? Like
Mhm.
our downloads are meant for us personally first, and
Yeah.
then they're shareable. But it's
Yeah.
like our like tuning forks. Like we're at a point now where we can we because it can get complicated. It can get complicated, it can confusing, it can change directions, but where
Mhm.
we can actually go, you know what? End of the day, I'm going to get up from this show. I'm going to go do a few things. I'm going to carry this energy with me. I'm not going to worry about who am I going to see and what's going to happen and what am I going to say. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of what's happening because what I've been seeing with the show, if I go back to uh, the beginning of last year,
Mhm.
is kind of a shift from teacher to student. And not to take anything away from it because you've got to have, there's certain things that get us to a certain point and then you know
Right.
but this self-empowerment, things that lead to that things. And I think a lot of practitioners like you
Mhm.
talk about, I don't actually tell or do things for people, I take them to the door, or I
Yeah.
show them how to do it for themselves. Ultimately, they may not be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the energy itself is seen to that. Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest one is helping connect the dots for people, whether
Mm,
if I'm speaking or if I'm just vibrating at the energy. And then sometimes people don't even know, all of a sudden they are done with, like, for example, if I'm doing whether I'm doing a sound healing or an energy healing or a coaching session, and they don't get anything, it's okay. They don't need to get anything during, only if it's meant to. And then afterwards, all of a sudden they have all these aha or this wow moments, right?
right. Yeah.
And it's because the work finally kicked in and now
Yeah.
it's opening doors.
Right.
And now you're gonna be led to what feels more of in alignment with your soul, because
Right.
that's the vibration
Right.
I'm vibrating at.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Good
through
point.
words, sometimes it doesn't have to be through words at all to
Well, the
get
thing is, the thing is, we can no longer appraise it or
there.
rate it based on the old paradigm.
Right.
Just like I was saying about the number of views and all that, I was told that explicitly many, many times.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like that, and you're right. Um, yeah, I was going to ask you one more question, and it just slipped my mind. What the hell is going on here?
It's
Uh,
like, it'll flow back in if it's meant to.
Low back. Well, we'll just do it like this.
Yeah.
So I love the fact I was watching a clip of what is that, Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Uh,
I'm
like
not sure.
well, Coast to, it's like the preeminent
Mhm.
show that talks about these things, been around for years and years. And I have a lot of friends that have gone on that show. And actually was watching a friend of mine on that show.
Mhm.
Uh, and he asked her, can you connect to the ETs right now? And she's like, yeah. And this is one thing. Let me just say this first and preface it. So, what I want to do is jump up on the biggest platform I can and scream at the world, including the mainstream Lightworker, mainstream Starseed, that for several years, 4,000 plus episodes, people have been coming on this show that do virtually everybody
Mhm.
that one way or the other does what these people find spectacular on these other shows. Oh my God, somebody can talk to the Pleiadians. Well, shit, if I took a poll right now of the last hundred, you know what I mean? Like, this is the norm. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you was, and then I'll thank you for spending 2.5 hours with me. That was
I just
fun.
need so much fun though. So
Uh,
weird and fun. It's
right.
like,
But so, like, is there? Because I'm not sure how everybody works, but I love the way that you just went boom. Yeah, like there. I'm getting something right now.
yeah.
But like, is there anything that your team, those three, and any others that make up your team, is there anything that you can pick up on and that you want to share before we get out of here?
Okay, so take a second here because I usually will kind of filter out so that I'm not speaking word by word. I mean, unless I'm like
Yeah.
fully just channeling, but so as a team, Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Mintakas are saying, here's an example of Mintakas behind me right here. Okay. Um, they're saying, don't be afraid of your emotions.
Hmm.
They are the beauty that's about to unfold as
Mm.
soon as you have the courage to take that leap of faith and know that what looks dark and what you said, everything is upside down, right?
Hmm.
What looks dark is actually good.
Yeah.
And what it looks like it's bright and shiny and good
Thank you.
may actually be dark.
Fake.
Oh, yeah. So that's what they're saying. So we're being preconditions not to feel our emotions. There's all this darkness, this
Right.
bad publicity. Oh, you're too sensitive. Crying's bad. Crying shows weakness. On the contrary, crying, for example, or any emotions, being authentic, but at the same time being responsible for your own emotions and not being
Right.
putting out to others.
Right.
That
Bingo.
is the key to be able to fully embrace that love that you already have within yourselves, but that you've forgotten. And yes, many of us have gone through excruciating, painful, traumatic experiences. And they're saying, like, it's not to, like, we validate that. It's a tough journey. It's not an easy,
Right.
journey to go through, especially going through so many of them. And many of us who are here at this time alive in this human body is because we knew how hard it's gonna be, and we signed up for it. So have the trust to know that you're that powerful and that you're that powerful to be able to handle what's coming at you right now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You would have been long gone. Whether it's like the contract, soul contract has ended, or if you, or whatever else, or if people want to call it failure or whatever. But no. But if you're still here, you haven't failed. You're going through it in order to make you stronger. And many people think that, all right, as they're going through their ascension, that they need to, like, for example, oh, I need to stop the dark or psychic attacks, or I need to stop. What happens to the monkey mind and overthinking when you try to stop it? You get more of it.
Yeah. Of course.
The same
What?
concept
Hmm.
with what everybody's going through right now, and ourselves included, is if it resonates, of course, if it's aligned, if it feels right for you, then you're meant to hear this message. Then is really to build yourself stronger, because
Yeah.
you're not meant to be at the same state of strength, physically, emotionally, spiritually, how where you came from the 3D. You're not meant to have that template and be operating at that level
Right.
anymore. So you need to build a new strength in order to be able to fully be at a higher consciousness, because Mother Gaia is already on 5D. And many people think, oh my gosh, but there's all this like fights and battles and this. Guess what? When has human ever changed by being comfortable?
That's the whole thing. See, this is the
No,
whole thing that gets me is we
You
I'll speak
told
I'll,
us.
I'll speak in we terms, but
Yeah,
even though, but
yeah.
we want to stay in this uncomfortable comfort zone
Mhm.
instead of going into, because it's known, right? Instead of
Mhm.
going into this unknown,
Right.
which is uncomfortable for the
Mhm.
human aspect, but it's inevitable. It's
Yeah, it
it's
is.
it's rebirth. It's going into the to conception. It's a spark of life. It's whatever you want to call it. But I love what you said about the emotions, because I feel that, well, you mentioned earlier about how one of the Star family didn't have like an emotional intelligence, but
Oh,
and I've
Archer.
had
Yeah.
I've had many stories where I have this great story that this really good friend of mine, Alicia Brachet, Cosmic Network. We've done many shows together, and she came out on this show with a particular story, which was fascinating. It was about her calling of ca- uh, carrying energetic babies, basically,
Mhm.
and how she was moved to go start a blog, and that turned into to conferences, and all these women around the world talking about, I'm having these energetic babies all the time. I thought I was the only one, right? Well, one time these mantis came into her room, and
Uh-huh.
I think anyone that's had any research or even experience with mantis, they're considered like almost like a priesthood, right? They're the peacemakers. They're the, at least some of it. I know there's different stories out there, but so the mantis says, well, we just want you to know, because I mean, obviously she was emotionally distraught, and it says, we want you to know we got you. And she said, well, what about my emotional well-being? They said, well, we didn't count on that. So my point is that the strength of the human being is the emotion. If you look at any narrative worth its salt, archons, whatever, reptilians, whatever you want to, whatever, we're the sustenance. One human being has enough energy that can run an entire planet, the way I understand it. And again, that's just my own experience,
Oh.
but it's the unbridled emotion. So when people talk about, even when they say, and nothing against, because I love women, it's not a big deal, but like
Mhm.
they'll say women are emotionally intelligent. And I'm like, I don't think they're emotionally intelligent. I don't think men are either. I'm just saying that because you're emotional doesn't mean we're emotionally intelligent, whether it's a man or a woman.
Oh yeah, not
But
based on that. Right. Right.
right, I just think that I wasn't picking on women. I'm saying for both. I'm just saying that
Mhm.
that's what people say. Just because you're aware of your emotions doesn't mean you're emotionally intelligent. And I think this is what we have as a universal offering, as universal alchemists, as universal soldiers, is we're now in a situation. It doesn't matter how we got here, it doesn't matter what our story is. What matters is where we're at
Mhm.
and where we're going, because all of that was information to get us to this point. So my point being, I feel like that our opportunity for a universal offering
Mhm.
is because it's unique to us. Our range of emotions is unique to us. Now that we figured the game out, and we can say, okay, we're not going to give our power away. We're going to use it to create in
Right.
this dense environment, in the flesh. And wow, Katie bar the door, because what's going to happen? What's going to happen with that? That's going to be like wildfire. I'm one that believes this world can change like that. And starting this show back in 2015, or early 2016,
Mhm.
no, it's 2015. Well, the show was 2016. Um, Heard a lot of people say a lot of things, and I remember, and I'm talking about people that are well known, people that have big followings and stuff, and not both. And they would come in and they would say, well, it's going to be like this till 2075, and then it's going to be like this 2052, and then 2035. And I've never resonated with that. I always felt like, you know what, BS, you know what, let's make this happen. And I really feel like it can happen. I believe that's where the basis of it will be, as we learn to control our emotions,
Yeah.
and therefore have all that energy still within us and not shot out and projected somewhere.
Mhm.
uh, that as we can do that and start to create, and you said it early on, to collaborate, right? Like that's so key. Like, why would we do this if we're just going to do it for ourselves?
Mhm.
So it makes all the sense in the world. And so now you have a balanced field of emotional power that where two or more gather. And I feel like it can. That's why I asked you that question a while ago. Like, what do you think will happen? I mean, I'm just one of those people. I'm an optimist and I'm positive, but I
Mhm.
also feel like I'm being realistic that nothing's out of the realm of possibility. And the beautiful thing about it is, after all this searching and all the books and all the lectures and the seminars and the videos and all lives and all the things that we do, it just comes down to how much I love you and how much you love me, how much I love myself, how much you love yourself.
Yeah. You can only love somebody to the level that you love yourself, really.
Mm-hmm.
And when people think that they're loving another, myself included, went through this, did not know at the time. I love you. How come you don't love me back? I was like, wait, do I really love that person? Or am I attaching myself to that person because I don't trust in myself to provide and to love myself to the degree that I deserve or that I feel like I am worthy? Then I
Right.
seek outside, something outside, right? And, but yeah, as far as the emotions, yeah, and that is a big, there's no, but that's why they mention it because like you said, I resonated with what you said about because people's emotion they can feed a whole what is it, planet you said that you heard?
I got that download. I got that download. I used to get a lot of downloads about the galactic wars. You mentioned
Uh,
Orion and all
yeah, I
that.
didn't know that, so I just got the download from you now saying
No,
that.
but that's what they told me. They showed me. They showed me, and this isn't. I mean, anything new. I mean, the Nag Hammadi talks about
Yeah.
like 20 or 25% of the writings there about the archons and how all the architecture of it works. But it basically works
Mhm.
where, and if you look at it's not. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not hard to figure out. We've
No,
got
but it's
all. You know
because
what I mean? And huh? Oh yeah.
for me it was hidden, and
Oh
it was a lot of forces hiding that from me
oh yeah.
for a reason because
Yeah.
I'm very powerful with my emotions. But when used when I didn't have control, or when I allow myself, where I give the power of my emotions to others, intentionally or unintentionally, that's how they feed off. And even coming to the show, there was so many different things. Like before we started this, there was times I was just like, okay, I was exhausted because there was so many things because they knew that once we come together,
Right.
that'd be so much more powerful, right?
Right.
So and that's expected because now I've had so many times and occasions, and every time I'm serving and helping people, whether it's through a connection or through one of my sessions or whatever it is, they like there are like the darkness or whatever it is energies that and I respect they are if they're vibrating at a lower vibration and that's their essence, they need to feed off the light in
Right.
order to survive. And of course, I'm not gonna go out without a fight. So for me, I was like, yes, something that was like for you that you got download, and it might be simple. For me, yet I not only was not given that download, I was purposely there was many things and many energies that purposely hid that from me so that I could not have access and the full
Right.
resonancy and power behind what you just delivered.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the
Well,
word, the energy that you deliver and then the
yeah,
activation.
no, 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 no. I got that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't get
yeah.
it that I didn't get it that deep. But okay. So
Yeah.
well, here's the last one. We'll do the last one.
Okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
we all know that the mother goddess, to keep it out of masculine, feminine. It's the mother goddess. We're in a particular time and space in the earth plane, let's say, because there's been matriarchal periods and there's been patriarchal periods. There's been, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So obviously, we've all known the mother goddess energy has, you know, come in, take, it's a game on, right? Uh, so if you look at that at the human level,
Mhm.
we all know, every man, every woman, every child knows that the most powerful uh, force on the earth is a woman.
Mhm.
So imagine this. If this is what I think, that's going to show up in every one of us, man, woman, child, doesn't matter.
We
But
have
if you
both.
just right, if you of course, yeah, of course. But if you're in a woman's body, and stereotypically you've held, let's say 80-90%, this applies because we know there's exceptions,
Mhm.
uh, and they're just as valid and relevant. But I'm talking about just in terms of what we see in our physicality. If you had a world where the feminine presence in form is still that emotional, powerful, deep being, right? But is
Mhm.
now in control. Like there's nothing for them to feed on now, number one. And number two, you can't F with that. I remember having this vision a few months ago when
Yeah.
I was in Sedona, and
Mhm.
the mother came in. She said, "I'm going to show you a little something." I'm like, "Okay." So it was like this big canyon, like you see in Sedona, and on one side were all the armies in the world, and on
Mhm.
the other side was just like you could just see like the face of the mother, and she
Mhm.
just went, and this
Yeah.
pink mist came out and just obliterated all of them. Like it's so crazy because of all the complexities and all the different things that it's all going to come down. It's all come down to the most basic, rudimentary human thoughts, words, and actions. It's like we're not getting away from it, and that's my point about being out of the body and all the woo woo. Is it's right here. It's Judy. It's Todd. It's anyone here. It's by their thoughts, words, and actions. And I really feel like the BS. We're in the no BS zone now. And so
Mhm.
whether somebody points it out to you, or you point it out to yourself, or the universe takes a 2x4 and hits you in the head,
Yeah.
we're going to get it real quick. So I
Mhm.
really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sorry to keep you for 2 hours and 44 minutes, but
That's right.
you know,
May I say something about what you just said as far
sure,
as
absolutely. Yeah,
so just to kind of I just want to point out that even though yes, there's it's not all black and white,
no,
but we all have yes female and male energy, divinity within us. And yes, we some of us are more of a representation, of a divine feminine energy in the feminine body. And even though, I agree with you that when a divine, a powerful goddess is in her full power, right, from the heart,
right,
she will never ever want to go and just be like burning anybody
right,
on purpose.
right,
Just like Mother Gaia, if you think about it, I got this a long time ago. Even we have people who are like protecting the earth, protecting the animals, protecting the planet, right? And even those can come off distorted because if you're not treating another being with kindness, or you get triggered and you don't know how that's a trigger on you and it's you're projecting, then you're defeating the purpose of trying to protect Mother Gaia. Mother Gaia has hold the space for so long. In any minute, if she wanted to wipe us all out, she could in the blink, right? In the blink. But
yeah.
that's not her purpose at all.
She
So
brought us in. She could take us out.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm like, for me, like hearing like all the protectors, but the ones that were distorted and was not fully
Yeah,
understanding that they themselves needed to do work. For me, I was like, I got this a long time ago. I was like, oh, I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the intention behind it, but also the awareness of how many of those have been distorted, right? To
right,
when people are not looking at themselves. And so I just and it's not to scare anybody, like it's really Mother Gaia and the divine feminine when we work through our distortions
right,
and become more of that authentic soul level divinity energy.
right,
We always come from love first, in a more gentle way. But when we're not heard and then damages continue being done to us, then yeah, we're gonna power up and we're gonna bring it. you know, so
Well,
it's not
yeah.
just, so I just want to remind, because I feel
No,
like
no, no. I totally get that. And again, I think probably
yeah.
you're probably uh, better at explaining it,
Mm,
keeping it all within this. Let's say within me. All right,
yeah,
the masculine and feminine with me, because you're right. You're
yeah,
right. That's where it's at. It can play out, but it's still here. So I got this a few days ago, which was basically, and I'm talking to myself now. So to keep it like in the context you had it.
yeah,
So my feminine,
yeah.
because I'm looking at it going, okay, we're about to start getting creative. I can feel it.
Uh-huh.
Something's shifting because I haven't been allowed to do anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it was like this. It was like my feminine kind of, I don't want to say submit. That's not the word, and it's mutual, by the way. So it was kind of like, in order for the ball to roll, that my feminine had to get to a certain place to give way to the authority of my masculine. Not that the masculine's more powerful than my feminine, but so that the masculine could fulfill his role
Hmm.
as protector
Yeah.
of love or of the heart or of the mother, however you want to put it. And I
Would you
really
say
understand. I really
surrender?
understand. Huh?
Surrender
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the
Surrender,
call?
surrender. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. Surrender to his authority
Yeah. Mhm.
so he could go out and do what he's supposed to do, which first and foremost is to protect her.
Mhm.
Because see,
Yeah.
he can't act first, right? And if you look at the world, who fights all the wars? Who's in the positions, right? But
Mhm.
anyone will tell you, like they say in the old saying, behind every man is a great woman. Behind every great man is a great woman. Or if you really want to see how things work, like when you're kids, right? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, the dad spanked you, and he was but
That's
who did we really fear? We feared the mother or the grandmother, right? Like if that was a whole different ballgame. So it's the same thing, right? But I
right.
kind of see it that way, and how that looks and the mechanics of it and the dynamics, I don't really know. I do see some movement with men, and I feel it within myself. But
Mhm.
again, I think it is probably getting close to the time
Yeah. I can feel
when
it.
we can, yeah, but when we can stop talking in terms of you're a woman, I'm a man. I
Right.
think there's some relevance to it. Don't get me wrong, but as long as it's going to create separation, division, uh,
Mhm.
then it's not going to be useful to us going forward. We are souls in a human body.
Right.
Period. We
Yeah.
both have masculine, we both have feminine. Don't look at me and prejudice me because I'm
Yeah.
in a man's body in regard to my sensitivity towards my femininity and vice versa, right? We are souls, all
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoy talking to you.
No, yeah, and I completely hear you. And this is the same exact situation where it depends. For me, it depends if I'm navigating the 3D and the groups of people I'm connecting with. Sometimes, for the sake of connection, that's when I will be using labels, for example, in
Oh
order
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, no, no.
Yeah, it's all
I
energy,
yeah,
really, at the soul level. And
yeah.
I'm really happy that you share what you share with me as far as, thank you for your vulnerability, as a man to stepping into and recognize that. And same thing, like I'm stepping in and honoring more of my masculine
Yeah.
because my masculine's been doing so much, but my feminine was beat down because of society,
Right. Of course.
honoring the feminine, right?
Of
And
course. I mean, it's like, that we know the drill here, man. I mean, it's like, but this is the thing. If you go back into the to galactic wars,
Mhm.
all the way down here,
Yeah.
it's the same thing every time. It's wipe out the men, rape the women, ethnic cleansing. Like it's never changed. People say, "Oh, well, the earth, the earth." Well, it was the earth. It's beyond the earth. It's been our whole history. This is what we came to correct. And I do absolutely feel, and it wasn't about you at all. What I was saying,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it was just. In other words, there's been a lot of dialogue, and rightfully so, because 80% of the people that make up these communities are women. and that should tell us something, right? But it's kind of like we reach this point now where those those like you are stepping out to be
Yeah.
seen, number one. And I
Mhm.
would imagine that a lot of them, a few of them that I know, are starting to create things. That's their masculine because their feminine has reached, right. And so for the men, I think what you're going to see, and I've already seen it in myself, is, which is weird because I do this for, a living or whatever, talk
Mhm.
show, right? But is to speak less and, in other words, the inverse of that. It's the
Mhm.
inverse of I'm really kind of baffled. Like, what are you going to create now? I mean, I'm getting a better
Yeah.
beat on it the last day or two, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
May
just
I just, yeah, I
yeah,
just want
yeah,
to say something connected to, as you were saying this, I got a humongous, like, powerful energy, because we were talking about, all right, 2024, what is, you know, kind of feedback, and what's the energy is like. I'm feeling this is the energy, a start of a beautiful unity age, century, that we're coming into, is really uniting the feminine and the masculine, because it's long overdue. And
yeah,
that's why we each had to do the work that we did to get to this point.
yeah,
Because if I didn't honor my masculine, I probably would not be able to be having a conversation with you right now. And same thing, if you didn't honor your feminine, you probably would not be able to. You see me as a threat, and I'll see you as a threat, and so forth, right?
right,
But because we've done the inner work, and that's to show everybody else, is like it starts with you, but that you are not alone, right? And we don't need to operate. We can only see from a lenses of the old world,
right.
unless we're being, and sometimes we're constantly being shown the way to the new world, especially if that's the choice that we made to shift and move in the sand with Mother Gaia. Then we're going to get all the help and all the support. And so anyway, that's the,
I
what is
love it.
energy for the 2024 is this.
Golden Light Communication says, "Amen, sister," and so it is. Hari Om
I,
Namo Shiva.
I forgot that people are watching, because I'm just like so having such a great conversation.
But this is the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it's supposed to be. You have
Oh,
a
thank you.
conversation, and yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
And
glad to be back. It's been a few days. I did like four
yeah,
shows. I did like 5 shows in 4 days. I'm like, I'm back. I'm back.
yeah,
I'm not gonna miss a day. And it's been like a week.
yeah. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
honestly, it's time, for
yeah, it
all
is.
of us to
It is.
unite, feminine and masculine, and respect each other's differences, because our differences are what's going to bring. We're gonna complement each other, and this is, with my biggest catalyst, my divine partner right now, is to realize how much he triggered me. We triggered the out of each other. I don't know if I can say the word.
You can say this is Sology. You can say where the fuck you want to, but
Oh, okay.
but
I'll let you
but
say it. Yeah,
well,
we
I yeah. I
yeah,
mean, a lot. Anyone that's been following me. I mean, so I've been in a very unique relationship for almost going on 9 years now,
oh, okay.
and so it's been very public as well. So I do know what you mean. Going through
Oops,
and from the first night, it was sacred union coding
yeah.
was coming in and et cetera and whatever. Without getting into all the stories, but my point is that I realized probably about maybe a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one thing to say something and another thing to realize it, right? We talked about that, and
Right.
that is that the greatest gift from really any connection, really, is the trigger. Like that's the mirror. I would say the mirror rather than the trigger. The mirror sounds more unified, right? But
Right.
yeah, I feel like that, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in and be open, because it can get a little convoluted, when you're that close looking at each other, So,
Your
but
face. I was like, oh my gosh.
but yeah,
I'm
I think what you're saying is true, and I think that also what goes for the individuals goes for these couples or connections where there's two people. It doesn't have to always be romantic, you know. It can be
Mhm.
any collaboration, but it's that openness. To have that openness, the math is totally different. And how can you get to unity consciousness and oneness if you
Uh-huh.
can't do it with one other person?
Right, right,
You got to get to the two before you can get to the three or the 10 or the 100, right? So
right. And then the one, right? The self.
the one, yeah,
Yeah, if you're judging your own masculine or feminine,
yeah,
whoever the opposite, then you can't really. But yeah, usually even what I say, like I had a lot of distortions in my feminine, so until I looked at that and healed those, I I could not honor my masculine. I could not show up. I mean,
yeah,
I tried,
yeah.
like I could, you
You know,
know.
the one I love is when people go, God, we're going on 3 hours. We got to get off here.
Oh,
but,
you know what?
but
I
you
saw
know,
like, we're gonna end at 3 hours. Like we got 6 more minutes.
oh,
We're
you got it. Yeah, yeah,
super
we're
early.
good. No, I love the one where people will. Well, I guess I don't want to say it that way. I guess the
Mhm.
reality is it. First of all, I don't feel that we give ourselves enough credit.
Mhm.
First of all, we were whole when we came here. Of course, we have memory swipe and we have the whole human thing,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what that one is. That one, it's almost like we're out here in this convoluted, you know, mass populated area, and we make our way back to the one, and then we're stepping out and creating a new math and a new experience. So you have to go from the one to the two,
Mhm.
right? Then it's the whole 369 thing, right? I mean, but that one to the two is really oneness. And so that's hard work. And I'm glad you mentioned it. And I see a few other people are mentioning it.
Yeah, it's not
But
easy. Okay. Hey,
all right.
don't keep
Huh?
going, guys.
Oh,
It's
son, my friend said this might be a record for Soul Speaks. Like, no, I've done some that were, I've probably done, I don't know, maybe 50 that were, that were 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Oh, actually, I've done some that are 4 hours. I've done
yeah.
quite a few.
Did I put people to sleep? Hopefully not.
No, we're holding our own. So listen, thank you so much for coming in. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure meeting you. It's a pleasure having this experience of unity consciousness and
Yeah.
oneness
Mm.
and meeting somebody who's down to earth yet totally connected. I mean, that's really the name of the game, you know, to
Mhm.
have both and to be able to speak to them openly and honestly without, you know, anything less than pure humility and pure intention and pure love. So I
Yeah.
really wish you the best of, you know, to you and yours and all your endeavors. And I look forward to collaborating with you again
Oh, yeah.
on this show later in the year, maybe. And if there's anything that you get going that you think I might be helpful with, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, we can be in touch and see what we want to create next.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you so much for having
You-
me.
All right. Take care, everybody, and stay tuned. Soul